is clean.
I'm here to confirm that from now onwards, NAK Kenya and I are supporting the Azimio presidential candidate, Raila Odinga. And have been able, without much struggle, to identify a critical mass of good people within the Azimio coalition. And that is needed to steer the nation in the right direction.
She said she's aware that there may be people in the movement who may have looted public resources, but she considered carefully her choices and opted for a leader who has pledged to steer the country forward.
I have been in the trenches with the Azimio presidential flag bearer, Comrade Raila Amolo Odinga. At this stage, because that is a struggle language, I will not use Baba, I will say comrade. We've been in the trenches together.
Karua has been part of the One Kenya alliance that brought together Wiper Party's Kalonzo Musyoka and KANU's Gideon Moi, who all joined the Azimio movement 2 weeks ago. Musalia Mudavadi of Amani National Congress and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula, who were part of the group, were the first to bolt out to form the Kenya Kwanza alliance with Deputy President William Ruto. Odinga, while welcoming Karua to Azimio, said his is a winning team and that they agreed it was time they teamed up and worked for the interest of the people of Kenya.
She's now a general. In the struggle, she wears scars of the struggle, okay? And she wears it proudly. As a proud Kenyan, you said we are marching on until we reach that mountain top to go and plant the flag of liberation on top.
This as Chama Chakazi leader Moses Kuria now says he respects Martha Karua's decision to join the Azimio La Umoja movement. Kuria, also the Gatundu lawmaker, had earlier called on the NAK Kenya leader to pick a side in the upcoming general election slated for August 9th. He had also asked her to rally support behind Deputy President William Ruto in a bid to end what he termed as a dynastic domination and give hope to Kenyans. While joining the Raila Odinga-led Azimio, Karua noted that all sides have people with a tainted past, but pictures Azimio because it has a critical mass of good people. Now, a Meru-based activist has filed a petition in court seeking to compel the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate and prosecute Meru Senator Mithika Linturi for various offences. Michael Macarena, through lawyer Dunstan Omari, stated that the legislator has had brushes with the law several times, yet he seems to walk away scot-free. Macarena wants the DCI and ODPP to arrest and prosecute Senator Linturi for various offences, including alleged forgery of his academic papers and involvement in the unresolved murder of his late business associate and house help.
The Honorable Kingori, as he then was the Chief Magistrate, arrived at a conclusion that first there was some serious business disagreements between Mr. Mithika Linturi and the deceased, but probably might have caused the elimination or rather the murder or the killing of this doctor or businessman by the name Mr. Stanley Maore, the deceased.
You cannot be seeking to get a master's degree if you have a D grade in Form 4. You can't. Its minimum entry requirement is a C+. 2, you must have a degree as a basis for that.
Now, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has requested the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, to launch investigations of allegations of premature campaigns and the use of public resources in campaigns by the two leading political formations. The commission brought to Haji following a letter by the Third Way Alliance in which party leader Okoh claimed that Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have been violating Section 14 of the Elections Offences Act. The Act outlaws use of public resources for the purpose of campaigning during an election. IEBC Chairperson Ofula Chebukati, while responding to Third Way Alliance, acknowledged that it is only Haji's office that can comprehensively handle the matter and be able to act. And finally, the government has ordered a night curfew in parts of Garissa County for the next 30 days following increased cases of insecurity that has led to loss of lives in recent weeks. The dusk to dawn curfew ordered by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i also saw the immediate suspension of land survey adjudications, issuance of land title deeds and transactions in the affected areas. He added that there will be an immediate recruitment and deployment of chiefs to Tawakal and Bulamzuri locations. This is News. I'm Dennis Sato. Good morning.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, this resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Nkericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Martin, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Martin, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it. The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thursday, and what does it look like on these Nairobi streets? It's just starting to wake up and nothing crazy or out of the ordinary. We're seeing a little bit of a build-up on the Thika Superhighway, in and outbound traffic, interestingly enough, not just inbound. Looks pretty good on Kiambu Road today, and not much has started. Coming out of Westlands is where we'll see some action, and that has already started to build up. The Eastern Bypass, and then coming then towards Jogo Road is where there is a bit of traffic build-up, but folks are just starting to get on the streets. Let's hold up and see what it looks like in a short while. This would be the time to get out, up and away, if you're one of those who leaves early and plans in advance. Let's take a look in about half an hour and see what it looks like. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Nyeri. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
How you doing? Happy Thursday, happy first Friday of the week, 24th day of March 2022, 9 minutes after 6. Good morning and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Umesikia hiyo? Ndu?
Yes.
Umesikia hiyo?
Yani, good morning. Yes.
Haya, jibu.
Good morning.
Good. City.
Welcome.
How you doing, City?
I'm actually very well, thank you, sir. Yes.
Good.
How are you, Eric?
This weather is treating you well. I'm very well, thank you.
This hot weather and I agree. We get along well.
Mm-hmm.
When it gets cooler, I like the coolness. My body doesn't.
Yes.
So
that is what's happening.
Yeah, Jen.
Poa bana. Maze niko poa.
Niko poa.
Niko poa. It's a song by Major. You know Major. Not Major. Major.
M-E-J-A?
Double J-A.
What is that?
It's called Okoh.
Sing it.
Sinishaimba niko poa. Niko poa.
Niko chini ya mamba.
Niko chini ya mamba. Ni sawa.
Is mamba not crocodile?
Yeah.
But here I was referring to mwamba, not mamba.
What's mwamba?
Rock.
I am under the rock. That is the one. So in Swahili it goes, niko chini ya mwamba, mwamba juu yangu. Yesu ni kinge, niko chini ya mwamba. Mwambie ndugu yangu, niko chini ya mwamba. Yesu ni kinge, niko chini ya mwamba. Yes, everybody welcome. We're all under the rock. This morning at 7 a.m. we have a justice conversation, hashtag Justice Thursdays. And we've been talking about access to justice, talking to judges of the High Court, judges of the Court of Appeal, judges of the Supreme Court. We've had several of them. We've had magistrates and chief magistrates. We've had directors of various departments in the Judiciary. We've then talked to other court users, the people from the Prisons Department, the National Council for the Administration of Justice. Today, we're talking to Mwananchi. There's an organization that is called Crime Sepoa. Okay? It's just a community-based organization. And they do a lot of awareness and sensitization on access to justice for citizens. Sylvia Muruabe is a programs manager at Crime Sepoa. She'll be joining us at 7 o'clock to talk about situation on ground when it comes to justice. Communities issues with accessing justice, communities' perceptions on justice and the entire justice system in the country, communities' demands for the justice system in the country. 7 a.m., 8 o'clock, we have one of the presidential aspirants. There are many presidential aspirants, my friend.
The last 2 days, people have just been jumping out of the woodwork, man.
Many presidential aspirants. This man moved from ODM to Safina Party just the other day. And within a short time, the national delegates of Safina Party endorsed him to be their presidential torchbearer. Jimmy Wanjigi will be joining us at 8 a.m. and we'll be asking him, so what's your game plan? What exactly are you doing here? Do you really want to be our president? Or are you playing a long game with someone else? Those are the questions we'll be asking.
Is there something else you want?
Is there something else you want? Si useme tu, tutakupatia. At 9 o'clock, we talk politics and political destiny and, looking at the transition of President Uhuru Kenyatta, his legacy and all, and what he's expected to have delivered by the time he leaves office. Elizabeth Elachi, a former Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, who's currently Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, will be joining us at 9. So we have a full show today. 7, 8, 9. Keep it here for that. Let's begin with taking a look at COVID-19 in numbers.
Let's do it. Let's look at what's happening in the country currently. 13 people have tested positive, a sample size of 4,625 in the last 24 hours. Positivity rate now stands at 0.3%. So it's been, going between 0.2, 0.4. We've not gone beyond 0.5 in the last 8 months. That's why we see some of the things that we have been seeing in terms of scrapping of regulations. KCAA, you know what KCAA is?
Yes.
Have exempted returning unvaccinated Kenyans who have difficulty accessing vaccines in their current country of residence. So if you come to Kenya, you've not been able to be vaccinated where you have come from, and you are a Kenyan citizen, they'll let you into the country. Come in here and get vaccinated.
We've got vaccines here, right? Brother and sister. Welcome
Don't worry,
home.
We got you. All travelers coming to Kenya who are fully vaccinated shall be exempt from the requirement of a PCR test. So if you have your vaccination certificate or at least proof of vaccination, no, it's okay. We don't need you to have taken a test where you're coming from. That should be all right.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, we have people who are exiting Kenya and to their countries, to the countries where they are going, they're required to have a negative PCR test, so they need to do that test. It would be interesting to see if over the next few weeks or months, it's dropped across board. It's been an expensive affair, especially for business travelers.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine how many PCR tests have been done by business travelers in the last 12 months?
And it's got to be valid within a certain time.
72 hours.
You're going to America, it needs to be, 24 hours or something?
Can you imagine the amount of money? We have some countries charging as high as $150. $100. One test. You will have to come back and do the test again. All travellers arriving into Kenya through any point of entry must have a certificate of COVID-19 vaccination. According to the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, just in case you're wondering what KCAA is, they said these regulations apply to all, with an exemption of travellers with medical conditions precluding vaccination, things like pregnancy in some cases, etc. etc. The authority said such persons shall be required to provide a letter from a recognized medical practitioner detailing the medical reason in precluding vaccination. Travelers who have recovered from an active COVID-19 infection or received convalescent plasma in the preceding 90 days are also exempted from the directive. According to KCAA, those unvaccinated Kenyans who have difficulty accessing vaccines in their current country of residence will also be exempted. The body said such persons must be prepared to be vaccinated immediately upon arrival and must register for vaccination on the Chanjo KE platform before departure. Proof of registration will be required before entry into the country. So we're seeing that there's a continuous easing of these requirements. All right, so it's getting a little bit easier to travel. Quickly, and let's look at what's happening also. New Zealand, where things were getting a little bit tight, has now scrapped outdoor masking, some COVID-19 vaccine requirements. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is calling it a new beginning for the country. And
she should now do her wedding.
Now she can get married.
Please.
She put things on hold because things were going a little bit out of whack. And she did not want to have more than 100 people in a room when she, as the government, is saying, guys, we need to be careful because COVID is spreading once again via Omicron. So she was scheduled to be married. She said, even I will not hold my wedding. Maybe now she can
should do it now. You announce today and do the wedding immediately.
There's a weekend coming up, you know.
Hey,
Hey, you two, are you wedding planners?
We are invested in this wedding. We want to see.
Because I'm listening to this conversation today, tomorrow, now, immediately.
Do it now.
Yeah, it's important.
Allah?
You never know.
Really?
What COVID could do tomorrow. And she's forced to say, okay, back to lockdown. You see how quickly New Zealand goes back into lockdown?
Very fast. In fact, the country was already...
What's the population of New Zealand?
Some 5 million there.
Precisely. The population of Nairobi. Okay. Sure. It's easy. Small country.
They just tell their sheep, stay outdoors.
Okay.
Are you asking about the human population or the sheep population of New Zealand?
I think there's many sheep as there are humans.
More sheep than humans in New Zealand, actually. It's 18 minutes after 6. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, say hello. We'll be doing our roll call shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Dare for fast relief from period pain? Take Ciprodon. The fizz works to relieve pain faster.
Available at all good pharmacies and now at Chandarana supermarkets. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Nairobi, highs of 28, back down to lows of 15 today. 14 degrees and clear in Nakuru, highs of 29. We'll see highs of 28 in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 13, coming down to lows of 12. We're looking at lows of 13 and mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret, currently at 14. We're going to highs of 27. Mostly clear conditions in Mombasa, 27. Highs of 34. Today will get rather warm. Malindi, some parts is the forecast of rain at 27. We'll see highs of 32 and 21 and raining in some parts of Kisumu at 29. That'll be the high for today, coming down to lows of 19. Kakamega is mostly cloudy at 18. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 15. Looking into Kampala, it is raining in some parts, into most parts of Western Uganda. 28 will be the high and lows of 18 today. Partly cloudy conditions at 25, highs of 32 and lows of 25 in Dar es Salaam. 15 degrees and clear in Johannesburg, highs of 23 and lows of 14 today, and it will be mostly clear for now in Lagos at 28, highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's 25 and clear in Kinshasa, highs of 35 today. Looking into Beijing, 10 degrees into afternoon Thursday. It's hazy over the city. 13 will be the high and lows of 5. It's clear at 6 in Paris, highs of 21, and we'll see highs of 19 in London, where again, hazy London skies at 6. That'll be today's low. New York, still Wednesday night, it's 5 degrees and cloudy. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 9 and lows of 5.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Okay, 21 after 6.
Quite a number of people online this morning. Thank you for joining us well in advance. This is Sir Haran. He's tuned in from Kisumu. Kamvua kidogo this morning, but we are tuned in. That's great. That's great. Things are cooling down. Okay. It's nice. Eddie Oduor, good morning, my people. Koru is up and celebrating the first rainfall in 2 months. Hallelujah. I am glad this morning the three of you are on the verge of discovering salvation. Well done. First time you started off with a hymn. Hail SpiceFM. Okay, Mutwiri Kiereri is tuned in from Sydney this morning, and Buyai Marachi Butula. That's where Simon Murakana is. Yesterday it was Busia. Yeah, yesterday he said Buyai Marachi Busia.
No,
today
it was
he
still
said
Butula.
Huh?
It's City who told us that all those areas are in Busia County.
Nisawa. Good morning, folks. Tuned in from Mbumbuni in Makwene County. That's where Udima Owino is. Mohammed is tuned in from Doha. Hamjambo tuned in as always. That's Johnson Odero. And he says, you guys sing well. If you can decide to improve on vocals.
Wow. Shades.
Hey.
Who's that person again?
Shades.
Sheesh. Johnson.
Thank you.
We've now seen you. Eric is asking, where is this first Friday of the week from? See, it's today. Davey says, good morning. You're waiting for the proverb. It's coming. Don't worry. Good morning. Tuned in from Lunga Lunga in Viwandani. The main reason for waking up and breathing. Wow. Hasim Tok, good morning to you. Andrew Chamoyua is tuned in from Seattle in the USA. In Gishugu, Washira Wilfred says, good morning. Love the spirit of praise in Spice on Spice this morning. Tuned in from Loresha. That's where Waweru is today. Victor says, good morning. Robert is tuned in as well. Stanley says, the political races reminds me of the difficulty in having clarity between the source, the home, and the city of our athletics champions. Okay. Now, Teddy Oduor says, hi, CT. Hi, Ndu. Do you know yesterday I asked about lunuring? So now he said, yesterday I asked you who you were lunuring in the hot seat. Now tell CT that lunuring means defeathering. And oh boy, unlike other stations in the land, Situation Room is not a place you come to unprepared. The sweating involved would make Chris Murungaru's sweating be like child's play. Susan Jerry, we see you. Wodnya Malele, we see you as well. Constance Chile says, see you as well. Good morning, Collins. Quite a number of people online. Daniel, Odero, Munene, Yobesh. I can't get to you all, but we see you. Thanks for joining us.
Mutu. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. CT is moving us from Mali. Let's hear where he's taking us today. So hold on, CT. I need to play this thing. It's called the intro to the proverb of the day, right? Okay, here you go.
We're in Chad.
Chad? Wow.
Just next
Who's the new president of Chad? After that man went and took himself to battle and got killed. What was his name? Idris Elba.
Oh my God. You're such a lost soul.
Idris Elba, if I'm not wrong.
He's not from Chad.
He's an actor. If I'm not wrong.
His name is Idris Deby. Please leave this one alone.
Yes. There Eric tried. Right. We are in Chad, leading from the front. He even became an ancestor.
Yes.
Long before, anyway.
Died in battle.
Yes, exactly.
Great honor.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of an elephant grew very long.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of an elephant grew very long. No one was criticizing it.
Have you ever heard anybody saying, the elephant trunk is a bit too long?
Have you ever imagined what an elephant
No,
would
have
look
you
like with a
ever?
shorter
Well, have
trunk?
you ever heard anybody like surely it could be a bit shorter?
Actuary.
So who complained about the warthog's teeth? And why didn't they grow longer?
I've come to understand these proverbs. Yeah? There are human beings who speak to animals. So when a proverb involves animals and it seems a little interesting, you assume that it's the human being who thought it up. No. Maybe that human being had a conversation with the other animals. The animals told him, let me tell you, from our point of view, this thing is like this.
Isn't like this.
And human beings, being what they are, took credit for it.
No one could have criticized an elephant. Would you dare? The size of an elephant. But that small thing, Nyeri. What is it called?
Ngiri, in Kiswahili.
What is that?
Warthog.
You're right. It's a warthog.
You keep laughing at it. And what are those things that are growing out of your mouth?
The English language is an interesting language. It is what, then hog.
It's a warthog.
Yes, and then it's warthog.
It's a warthog.
Warthog.
It's a warthog. Kitu gani?
So Idris Debi's successor is his son, actually, Mohammed Kaka Debi.
Mohammed Kaka Debi is the
Let me
current
ask you
president.
this question,
Yes.
Right.
This thing about giving your relatives jobs in your neck of the woods, it seems to be quite the thing, isn't it?
So you see, even in Kenya.
Give the guy that you want.
I was waiting for her to come back with that rejoinder. I was chokoring. I was hoping she'd come back with that rejoinder and say, Kwan, you people, you think you're different.
When you think you're different.
Following in fine form. Hey, but
Okay.
There's a guy in Central Africa who's doing the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there are guys here in Kenya who are trying to do the same.
Just here over the pond, people have even put their wives as ministers.
Okay, time for us to look at the newspaper headlines. www.standardmedia.co.ke. And actually, if you go into the Standard Media, you get premium content online. Just go become an active member of the online community. Visit the website www.standardmedia.co.ke, or you can also scan a QR code that's on the newspaper on the front page of the paper. Some premium content there. SGR funding when the Chinese raised red flags. Uhuru and Ruto danced under the billions, puffing Chinese dragon until the hard questions were asked. Terrain. To get the terrain, www.standardmedia.co.ke.
Speaking of terrain, between page 4 and 5 on the Standard today, there are very, very many things that are going on. Let me just tell you one, because it baffles me.
Yes.
The doctor has narrated how he himself faked medical records. And this is in the ongoing case of the state against Governor Okoh Obado. A doctor has narrated how he faked medical records for Migori Governor Okoh Obado's personal assistant on the day the county chief's girlfriend was murdered. Mr. Cliff Momanyi, a clinical officer based at the Kisumu Teaching and Referral Hospital, presented copies of the forged medical records in court. In the papers, he indicated that the governor's assistant, Mr. Michael Oyamo, had been attacked by unknown people and required specialized treatment. Dr. Momanyi said the forgeries happened on September 4th, 2018, the same day the body of Mr. Obado's murdered girlfriend, Ms. Sharon Otieno, was discovered at the Kodera forest in Oyugi's town. The patient, Mr. Oyamo, who remember is the assistant, did not even come to the hospital. But I was requested to fill the medical record forms in which I indicated he suffered accidental suffocation and strangulation by unknown people. Mr. Obado, Oyamo, and former Migori County Clerk Kashpal Obiero are facing murder charges. They are alleged to have killed Ms. Sharon on the 3rd of September. So, A police officer, Mr. Willie Okoh, who testified previously, told the court one of the protected witnesses had informed him that it was Mr. Oyama who had handed them over to the kidnappers on the 3rd of September at Grasser Hospital in Rongo Town within Migori County. This is a quote from Cliff Momanyi. My colleague asked me to help in filling a patient form for his friend, indicating he needed specialized treatment and that the patient had suffered strangulation, essentially removing him from any possible scene of crime that had involved Sharon. Now, this clinical officer, obviously laden with guilt, has decided to come out and say, actually, you know what? I was asked to do this. And I'm just telling you that this is how it was. I was asked to do it, and that's why I did.
You actually think that this individual had a pricked conscience, and that is why he decided to come out and say these things.
So now, as I say, I'm going to tell you now,
What do you think?
What I think, you're presented with a certain scenario. And you're told, Ndugu, it's like this. We know you're the one who signed this, but let us just also tell you something else. This person, whom you say had this debilitating condition, blah, 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 blah. Here's the evidence. He was here at this time, and we know, and this is this and this. And so
that means you were together.
So were you also with him? No. So then,
how did you know?
How did you know that
he suffered strangulation? How do you know he suffered strangulation?
Were you there when he was being strangled?
And suffocated?
Says no. Actually, it wasn't like that. Meaning, fait accompli. By the time these people who practice medicine take oaths, they know that the word is taken as sacrosanct. They know that when you say this is what it is, people are likely to believe. So I'm going to go even further. It's being presented as a friend asked him.
Colleague.
Yeah, colleague asked him. Yeah, colleague can ask you. But under the circumstances, then what transpired? Do you think he was just asked? But this is a big ask.
Essentially, because what you're doing is, you're saying that this individual who's said to have been in one place where said girl was
You've removed him from that scene.
You've removed him from that scene.
Precisely.
By virtue of the fact that you have said he was being suffocated and strangled.
Yes.
So he could not possibly have been in that
Yes.
area. But now you're coming to tell us that actually,
indeed,
it was not true.
True, yes. So essentially, you've put him back where you had removed him from.
Yes.
And I'm saying that isn't just a prick of the conscience. That one, certain realities have been brought to bear on your person, and the options that you see before you realize this one, or you're told, why don't you just say the truth?
The truth.
Or better,
Sema tu kweli.
Yeah, sema tu kweli ndugu.
Mali tumefika.
Yes.
Why?
With modern investigative techniques, my friend, you'll be caught in a lie like this.
Yeah.
Like?
Evil.
Yes.
Like that.
27 minutes to 7. Let's take a quick one. Take a look at the traffic. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
KTN Home welcomes you with shows that will inspire you. They are very compelling, very emotive, and even better about individuals who have a story to share. Through their stories, you get to hear of as many life experiences, learn, and grow. Catch What's Your Story every Saturday at 6 p.m. Her Standards every Saturday at 4 p.m. and Everyday Woman every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. KTN Home, the home of inspiration. Get inspired today.
Okay, starting to build up in different parts of the city. Okay, so yesterday there was this massive traffic that we saw happening between Cabanas and then out towards Airtel. It's because a certain part of the road is being sorted out. It has not been completed yet, so there's a likelihood that could happen again. This is forewarning. We've seen that build up has already started, then coming out towards Airtel today. So just keep your wits about. if you have not gotten to the part where you need to turn off, you might want to think about using the ICD route to get off Mombasa Road today onto the southern bypass. Not much happening on Uhuru Highway getting into the city, but we will see that coming into Westlands, it'll build up some. The Thika Superhighway is where it is full-on traffic, bumper to bumper. Still not looking too bad on Kiambu Road, but it looks like the Thika Superhighway, Jogo Road, and then coming off Mombasa Road is where we're going to have a bit of a headache today. Let's keep our eyes open for what might be happening in your neck of the woods. Share with us. Let us know. We can let other people know and keep things moving this morning. How'd you do that? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It is 24 minutes to 7. Sisi, what are you looking at?
94.
I, my friend, am looking at several things.
Okay.
But the thing that has actually caught my attention is something very interesting. What?
Okay.
Ndio tunataka kujua hiyo what.
At the heart of this political debate, there is the move that has been in the papers, how Martha Karua joined Azimio. I'll tell you why this caught my attention. Every time we hear of movements in the political arena, one always asks the fundamental question, what is this person bringing with them? And the bringing with them question often implies that you have a huge following in your backyard, and when you join that particular group, that group follows you.
Yeah.
This is not always true. In fact, it is rarely true. There are only very few people in the country who have that capacity to actually move with a large number of people as they move from one place to the other. Okay? But why I'm thinking it's interesting, is because I looked at Martha Karua's entry into the Azimio family. My thinking, and I was thinking, this discussion we've been having about women in leadership, I think we now have a situation where the deputy president's position and the race for it has an entrant. Because what Martha brings with her may not be a population, but a profile and a reputation. Right. Yes. Now, that is something that very many politicians don't have.
People don't have reputations?
No, they have terrible, tattered reputations that if you leave it in the
they
open...
have reputations, they're not necessarily sparkling.
When you say you have reputation, it often means the implication is that
it's negative.
Yes, or it's positive. But most of our politicians, the reputations, if I may use the Kiswahili word, are so heavy. You're not really sure what their position is on certain issues, where they stand. What you know is that they're politicians. And that's just about it.
Bas.
Yes. If you had to ask, what does this person stand for? Believe me, you'll be hard-pressed to actually tell somebody what that person stands for. Or if they've made a stand on anything that you consider to have been meaningful.
Okay.
Yes.
The Standard says it complicates now the choice for Raila on a running mate.
That's what the Standard says. Does Raila think it complicates it?
He says, she'll have a position somewhere when the game starts. What do you think?
What I think is this.
Would she make a difference if she were to be picked as running mate?
Oh, yes. A difference both ways. But those who do not like Martha will not like her.
You don't think those who don't like Martha in Raila's camp today, you don't think they're changing tune?
They will not. What I'm saying is, these are politicians. They will not tell you what they think. Why they may not like Martha is for a simple reason. She is, in my opinion, somebody who actually takes a position and sticks with it. She's not a wind vane or a flag, just keeps moving back and forth and back and forth. That's one. Two, she has a tendency of speaking her mind rather bluntly.
Indeed.
Yes. That's something most politicians shy away from.
Most people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know my favorite topic. Yes. So, do I think she'll make a change? If I'm to go by the track record of what I've seen Martha do, okay? Remember this lady, unseated, when she first became MP, a really powerful person. Somebody had been a former head of the civil service, just so that you understand her history. Okay? Now, and she was undefeated. She kept getting elected. One of the first women to be elected in her not neck of the woods as in Gishugu, but in central Kenya. Now, that isn't a small feat. You're elected, then you're elected again. And you talk about a region where democracy is practiced in full. You're given a turn, they say, Nani, it's good enough, let's give somebody else his turn. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, look at her when she was the Ministry of Water. It's water that I think of the most. The bulk of the changes we talk about in the water ministry right now came about when Martha Karua was Minister for Water. Yes. You cannot say she's one of these people who does nothing when she has a position. She does a great deal.
Yeah.
So you're asking me, would she do a lot? Oh, I think she would. I think she would.
Okay.
I think she would. And also the conversation about having a female deputy president, it is a good conversation. In keeping with other conversations,
it bodes well.
It bodes well, and yes, the timing is good.
Yeah.
Yes. There'll be noise from other quarters, but there's always noise where there are politicians. So
and she's not a newbie anyway. So if she joined that ticket, it's not the first time that she's on a ticket.
No.
A presidential ticket.
No.
Okay. 840,000 COVID-19 vaccines have gone to waste. And there's 1.8 million that could expire in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. This is according to the Cabinet, the Chief Administrative Secretary for Health, Mercy Mwangangi, who said vaccines donated to Kenya by the COVAX facility in January had a 2-month shelf life. The Johnson & Johnson dosage received in December will expire on the 14th of April. If Kenyans do not show up to get vaccinated in the next 3 weeks, another 1 million vaccine doses will expire. Every expired drug is a wasted opportunity to save a life. Of the expired doses, Nakuru had the most, 35,000. Busia, 27,000. Kajiado, 25,000. Kakamega, 12,000. Kwale, 11,000. So a county has some 25,000 vaccine doses that have arrived, and then they don't get into people's arms, they expire. What does that... It starts from, by the time the vaccines are getting into the country, they have like 2 months to go before they expire.
Yeah.
So by the time they leave Kitengela, they're distributed to the counties, blah, 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 blah. How many weeks to expiry? Okay. And then the counties are not doing the mobile vaccination drives and all those things. So going to waste. 1.8 million plus 840 will have like 2.4 million doses, 2.5 million doses.
Down the drain.
Going just like that.
Yeah.
Because people are not coming to get vaccinated and because the government is not doing what it ought to be doing. Listen, she says, despite our campaigns that saw certain days register more than 200,000 shots, we may not utilize all the AstraZeneca vaccines available before expiry. There was a time we administered more than 3 million doses in just 2 weeks. There was a time. So why did you stop? What happened?
The drive literally reduced.
Yep.
That was quite something. So remember there was a boyfriend who gave a girlfriend some, millions.
Yes.
Remember? As a gift.
Belgian.
Everybody now started making some noise here, there. Now, a state body seeks to seize 49 million shillings wired to woman. That's what the headline is. The mystery surrounding a Belgian businessman who gifted his girlfriend millions of shillings continued after a state agency moved to court to have the third woman forfeit her share of the money. The Asset Recovery Agency has filed a suit at the High Court seeking to compel Miss Jane Wangoi Kago to forfeit 49 million she received from Mr. Mark de Mezel. Miss Wangoi has said the money was a gift to fund her travel for a holiday in Portugal and expand her clothes and salon business, surely. ARA claims that Ms. Wangoi is among the people who received more than 650 million from the Belgian man in suspicious circumstances. According to the ARA, we have established that she is part of an international money laundering syndicate in which Mr. Mark de Mezel is the kingpin. They have been disguising the source of funds to conceal the fact that they are proceeds of crime, which are liable for forfeiture to the state. You remember where we had them here? And she said, look, by the time she was here, and she said, by the time we have made such proclamations, we've done our homework. We've had our...
ARA, not the girlfriend.
No, not the girlfriend.
I was wondering, where was I?
No. ARA was here. And they told us, by the time they make such proclamations, they have done their due diligence, they have done their investigations, they have found out such... If it's watertight, if they've moved to court. So all these big things you're hearing, money laundering syndicate, proceeds of crime, etc., and have moved to court, they've got a tight case, according to ARA. Miss Wangoi is the elder sister of the Belgian's first girlfriend, Miss Tebi Wambuko Kago, who received 108 million. The money was frozen by the court on suspicion of being proceeds of crime. The agency is also seeking to have 107 million that Mezo had gifted his second girlfriend, Miss Felista Nyamavira Joroge. This money now forfeited to the state. ARA investigator Mr. Frederick Musyoki in his affidavit swore that Ms. Wangoi received the money from Mr. Mezo in two tranches of 3.1 million and 45.6 million that was transferred to her Equity Bank accounts. The investigator said they suspected Mezo is the mastermind of an international criminal syndicate and is using the money to lure young Kenyan girls into the racket. According to that, we have established that between February 2020 and August 2021, he transferred funds to 5 individuals in Kenya, including Miss Wangoi, with the total approximated for 650.9 million shillings. Mr. Musyoki said the Belgian promises the woman their age between 19 to 26 that he will do what?
Marry them.
He will marry them.
He's married one.
The agencies.
I don't know. This story has gaps.
Why? What are the gaps?
What?
It's a simple gap. Huh? The fact that this agency has said that they have found this man is part of a huge money laundering ring.
Not part of, he's the guy.
Yes. You're telling me the country where he comes from don't have laws that prohibit people from being money launderers, and that they're not even more strict than we are, and that they would have been the first people to have perhaps arrested this person if indeed he was who our people say he is.
Oh, that is possible.
It's possible, but he's sending the money here to Kenyan girls, promising them that he's going to marry
He's
them.
doing that to avoid that whole thing that you're saying.
thing in his own country. He's bringing it to Kenya.
You know, let me explain to you why I'm making this statement. Yesterday, in the papers, there was a story. Remember there was this money, some 785 million shillings, which went to Standard Chartered Bank in Germany.
Some payments.
Yes.
Everybody minded that story.
Yes. This money was supposed to be a refund for the cash for excess pay to Kenya Power.
Yes.
From Lake Turkana Wind Power Project.
Wind Power, yes, exactly. Remember that money?
Yeah.
Okay? The treasury, meaning it went to Germany, it is now back in Kenya. Okay? The reason why it's back in Kenya is because it went to Germany, the guy said, no. It's the Germans who said,
accompanying paperwork.
Apana.
Yes.
Apana. This money. Now, people who launder money, from what I have observed, and here I'm speaking from a position of ignorance, are clever people who find ways and means of ensuring that they launder this money effectively. The whole process is that it follows that you shouldn't be detected. You are sending money to a young Kenyan girl in Kenya.
What are you saying, City? What are you saying?
I am saying
that it's not possible that there could be somebody who is more cleverer than the launderer.
No,
in this country.
I am saying
who wakes up every morning looking out for any traces of money laundering.
I am saying this: those who deal with money laundering in this country are people who know their work, and I'm sure they're doing an excellent job. But I also know this. That people who are in positions of authority in this country where money is concerned always have an ulterior motive. That is what I am saying. That is actually what I'm saying.
So this is a shakedown.
It is not
ARA
just...
is shaking down the fire.
Yes.
But they want the money to go back to the states.
I am saying there's a possibility it's a shakedown. And when certain things are in place, they'll suddenly find that actually, that money was not part of money laundering.
And maybe he actually did love these 5 women and was just giving him his 600.
But they're relatives.
Who are the other 2 anyway?
Relatives.
We're talking about 5. We know
we
about
know 2.
3.
3.
We know Wangoi. We know her small sister.
And then we know Nyamavira Joroge.
Tabitha is a small sister, and then we know
there's Felista.
Those are 3 women.
We don't know.
Who are the other 2?
The point I'm trying to make here is this. As far as I'm concerned, everything that this institution does is above board in that they're mandated by law to carry out these duties. But the individuals who work in these organizations, not many, some always have an ulterior motive, and this is an opportunity for them to shake the people down. We hear stories in KRA. We hear stories with the DCI. We hear stories. These Kenyans cannot be exempt. That's the point I'm trying to make. This amount of money? No.
Everybody wants a piece of the pie.
Have a little faith, City.
I do have faith. That is why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
KTN Home, the home of lifestyle shows. We will show you the finer things in life, exquisiteness, grandeur, you name it. KTN Home brings you Art of Living every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. whereby Nile and Tay takes you through the hidden gems, exquisite homes, and even better, gives you tips on decoration, designs, and how to make a beautiful home at the end of it all. You don't have to wish for that superb home while you can make one. KTN Home, the home of lifestyle.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
9 minutes to 7. So when you hear Isli, what comes to mind?
Wow.
Kenya Bus.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the generation that one grew up in, Kenya Bus.
Kenya Bus.
Kenya Bus.
Headquarters.
Yes.
Depot.
Depot.
What else?
Curtains.
You know, you have Kisumu Ndogo, Somali Ndogo.
Somali Ndogo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isli. Right?
You know, like Chinatown?
Vibrant
Somali
business.
Completely.
Mini Hargeisa.
Yes, but that's it.
But it's also now known for something else.
Uh-oh.
Boreholes.
Potholes or boreholes?
Boreholes.
Okay.
There are so many that the Nairobi Metropolitan Service is like, Buana. The NMS has raised alarm over the number of boreholes in Isli. Ms. Mario Kainga, the Chief Officer for Water, Sanitation and Energy at NMS, says the situation is worrying because the underground water is depleting. Though the number of boreholes in the estate remains unknown, it emerged that many clandestine water points had been sunk in the area. Ms. Kainga made the remarks during celebrations to mark World Water Day on Tuesday. She says groundwater making the invisible visible. What we lack in Nairobi is a consolidated and comprehensive data on the status of groundwater, on which level we are, and the effects we have on whether we are depleting the aquifer or not. Did I say miss? It's Mr. Mario Kainga. He added, what we need to notice is by seeing the level of drilling, going deeper in terms of drilling is an indicator that the groundwater is being depleted. He said in Isli, there were those complying and getting approvals from the relevant authorities like NEMA and Water Resources Management Authority, while the majority did not. Going forward, we are going to strengthen enforcement. So he's not saying, Kainga said NMS had dug 193 boreholes since it took over in Nairobi. But he's now raising alarm because they're like, there are so many water points in Isli. So many.
But shouldn't they be asking? Are you finished?
For now, I'm done.
Should they not be asking why folks are having to look for these water sources?
Actually, even before you get them do,
Sir?
you don't just wake up in the morning and
say,
sink
I'm
a
going to
borehole.
dig a borehole.
No.
See,
You seek permission.
Yeah, somebody's giving you permission to dig
What
these
they're
things in
saying
the first
is,
place.
There's
no water in the taps.
There are people who are sinking boreholes in Nairobi, particularly Isli, without going through that process.
Yeah.
Going to Arma, which is now called WRA, and going to NEMA. Wake up, kuja.
Without going to war and
Without, yes.
Okay.
Just put in it drills, get water, go.
You
The
know,
whole
something
place is
about
fenced
sinking
off.
bowl that people don't understand. There are cities in the world like Venice or Venice that more or less are on the same level as the water, not even at sea level. They're just with water. Okay. Now Jakarta is known. Capital of Indonesia. It's sinking. Now, one of the things that Jakarta is known for is people sink boreholes. So essentially, what you've done by sinking boreholes, you are actually welcoming water levels into the city more and more and more and more. So half the city right now, right as I'm talking to you right now, this particular day on the 24th of March,
is a borehole.
Actually, you know, Eric, spot on. The city is sinking. You actually interfere with a great deal when you simply sink boreholes willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly.
Yes.
You do though.
Yes. Here and there.
Here and there. So NMS is complaining about that. It's on page 21. It's just like a strip, one column of a story. 3 columns on that page Buddy City sinking in stinky trash. Hey, let me read that again.
Yeah.
Buddy City sinking in stinky trash. The once green city in the sun is now a pale shadow of its former self, because Nairobi is fast becoming filthy with heaps of garbage and smelly raw sewer oozing from many corners. The eyesore is a mockery of the beautification efforts by the NMS. A spot check established a significant number of cases of raw sewage emanating from burst pipes, plus clogged drainages. At the city market, the smell of rotten flowers and food residues releases a pungent smell to traders, customers and passers-by. It's now emerging that the bad smell at city market is affecting businesses, with target customers avoiding the place. So Nairobi, with all the good work that General Buddy is doing, there's also the good work that garbage is doing.
Remember, we had a discussion with some people, some officials of the Nairobi Metropolitan Services with regard to this very, very same matter. You know, they don't really want to sort this problem out.
No.
Part of the reason is because of the same theory of cartels that we have. There are people who do this privately.
Yep.
And I would not be surprised, they use some really tired, dilapidated vehicles. However, some of these very same individuals may be the ones who actually own these vehicles. Yes. So, this isn't a problem that exists because it can't be solved. Those who are mandated with the task of resolving such matters do not wish to resolve it.
They don't want to.
It's not complicated.
They don't want to. There's a photo here taken on Tuesday outside City Market, and an entire lane on a street is occupied by garbage.
Yes. Now you tell me. And there are people who are tasked with remove that garbage on a daily basis.
They pass there every day.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yes.
So
grief.
They don't want to.
It's failure. Let's just call it what it is. It's failure of those tasked with doing the job. Final story, City, before we go to the top of the hour.
This is very interesting. Speaker halts 3.3 trillion budget on revenue sharing bill delay. The Treasury Secretary, Kuriatani, will not read the said budget for the financial year starting July on April 7th, unless Parliament approves a bill that shares revenue between counties and the national government. Okay, the Speaker, Justin Drew, told Parliament that unless the Division of Revenue Bill 2020 is passed, it will be unconstitutional for Mr. Atani to deliver the budget highlights.
Obvious.
Yes. Now,
why are they not passing the Division of Revenue Bill?
I don't think they have refused to pass it, just that they haven't passed it. Okay.
Okay. Is it not that they have refused, they just have not.
What is this story saying?
The court,
the High Court in 2020,
not quite. The High Court in 2020 ruled that the Division of Revenue Bill must be approved by Parliament before the tabling of budget estimates and reading of the budget speech. High Court 2020 said this is how it must be done.
Yes.
Yes.
Now Bunge just came back from recess on Tuesday.
They've just come back.
They need to dispense with this very
They
very
need
fast.
to do with this
Very,
thing
very
quickly. And this, when Bunge hears there's no bus, okay, we're going to negotiate. So, okay, we're going to pass it, but can we also get date?
It's interesting because on the same line, they were discussing the supplementary budget.
Yes, they were.
Okoh Atani has gone to Parliament, and there's an emergency fund. He's saying, I want an extra 3.7 billion shillings into the emergency fund. Parliament has asked him, but the current emergency fund, you have not
has 3.7.
You have not even withdrawn a shilling. Why do you want an extra for supplementary? Wacha wewe bwana. Coming to the top of the hour. Cipladon is what? A pain relief medication.
It is. In effervescent form, it works 2 times as fast as your regular paracetamol, and it will help you get over those aches and pains, those tension headaches that you feel sometimes every morning, Eric, and those, back aches that you try to sort out. Twice as fast as your regular paracetamol, and it will solve your problems once you put it in water. There's a sweetened version by aspartame in 500 grams. There's a neutral version in 1,000 grams.
This one doesn't have
MG,
aspartame.
sorry. No, the neutral one does not have, hence it's neutral.
Oh, it's neutral, so it doesn't
in terms of taste, it doesn't
so when
have
it has aspartame, it's not neutral.
Anyway, you can get it at all your good pharmacies and your Chandarana supermarket city. I think you might need a
How
dose
much
this
water
morning.
do you need for one?
Glass. How big must the glass be?
How big must the glass be?
200 ml, 300 ml is what they say.
Okay.
So it's your normal glass.
That's
Just
very
the
little
normal
water.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's what they say you need, and you should be all right. You want
Good
more water?
morning. It's 7 a.m.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. NARC Kenya Party leader Martha Karua has declared support for Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga. Karua said she took the decision after careful consideration. She however warned that her decision to join Azimio does not mean everyone there is clean.
I'm here to confirm that from now onwards, NARC Kenya and I are supporting the Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga. And have been able, without much struggle, to identify a critical mass of good people within the Azimio coalition. And that is needed to steer the nation in the right direction.
She said she's aware that there may be people in the movement who may have looted public resources, but she considered carefully a choice and opted for a leader who has pledged to steer the country forward.
I have been in the trenches with the Azimio presidential flag bearer, Comrade Raila Amolo Odinga. At this stage, because that is a struggle language, I will not use Baba, I will say Comrade. We've been in the trenches together.
Karua had been part of the One Kenya alliance that brought together Wiper parties Kalonzo Musyoka and KANU's Gideon Moi, who all joined the Azimio movement 2 weeks ago. Musalia Mudavadi of Amani National Congress and Ford Kenya's Moses Wetangula were part of the group, but were first to bolt out to form the Kenya Kwanza alliance with the Deputy President William Ruto. Odinga, while welcoming Karua to Azimio, said this is a winning team and that they agreed it was time they teamed up and worked for the interest of the people of Kenya.
She's now a general in the struggle. She wears scars of the struggle, and she wears it proudly as a proud Kenyan. We said we are marching on until we reach that mountain top to go and plant the flag of liberation on top.
This as Chama Chakazi leader Moses Kuria now says he respects Martha Karua's decision to join the Azimio la Umoja movement. Kuria, also the Gatundu lawmaker, had earlier called on the NARC Kenya leader to pick a side in the upcoming general election slated for August 9th. He had also asked her to rally support behind Deputy President William Ruto in a bid to end what he termed as dynastic domination and give hope to Kenyans. Now, Emeru-based activists filed a petition in court seeking to compel the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate and prosecute Meru Senator Mithika Linturi for various offences. Michael Macarena, through lawyer Dunstan Omari, stated that the legislator has had brushes with the law several times, yet it seems to walk away scot-free. Macarena wants the DCI and ODPP to arrest and prosecute Senator Linturi for various offences, including alleged forgery of his academic papers and involvement in the unresolved murder of his late business associate and house help.
The Honorable Kingori, as he then was, the Chief Magistrate, arrived at a conclusion that first there was some serious business disagreements between Mr. Mithika Linturi and the deceased, but probably might have caused the elimination or rather the murder or the killing of this doctor or businessman by the name Mr. Stanley Maore, the deceased.
You cannot be seeking to get a master's degree if you have a D grade in Form 4. You can't. Its minimum entry requirement is a C+. 2, you must have a degree as a basis for that.
Now, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission has requested the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, to launch investigations of allegations of premature campaigns and use of public resources in campaigns by the two leading political formations. The commission brought to Haji following a letter by the Third Way Alliance in which party leader Okoh claimed that Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have been violating Section 14 of the Elections Offences Act. The act outlaws use of public resources for the purpose of campaigning during an election. IEBC chairperson Ofora Chebukati, while responding to Third Way Alliance, acknowledged that it is only Haji's office that can comprehensively handle the matter and be able to act. Now, the government has ordered a night curfew in parts of Garissa County for the next 30 days following increased cases of insecurity that has led to loss of lives in recent weeks. The dusk to dawn curfew ordered by Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i also saw the immediate suspension of land survey, adjudications, issuance of title deeds and transactions in the affected areas. He added that there will be an immediate recruitment and deployment of chiefs to Tawakal and Bulia Mzuri locations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Acedo. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
At a few minutes after 7 o'clock, we have some traffic really building up now on Mombasa Road, and it's coming out towards, all the way out, then towards Airtel. The heavens seem to be calling on rain, and it looks like that might come down this morning, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that and see. Langata Road is building up, going towards the city. Raila Odinga Way at the junction, going in that direction of Gong Road, also is building up. The industrial area circuit of Lunga, Likoni, and Jogo Road today, that's starting to build up, going towards the Likoni interchange on Mombasa Road, but nothing too crazy. The thicker superhighway, not doing too badly at the junction from Allsops all the way then out towards the cities where we'll see some traffic. Kiambu Road now has started to pile up, and we're also looking at it coming out of Westlands going towards Chiromo. Aside from that, doesn't look too bad this morning. Let's keep an eye on things though. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning. How are you doing? If you're joining us now, thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on Spice FM. We're also live streaming the show on Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. Okay? It is a happy first Friday of the week, the 24th day of March 2022. We have a guest in the studio. Before we introduce her, it's time for the proverb.
Right. The proverb comes from the country of Chad. So it's a Chadian proverb. For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long. That's called impunity.
Actually, have you ever imagined the trunk of an elephant being shorter? It's never occurred to me that it should be shorter. But I think it's because we're used to it being long.
Right. I'm just trying to imagine a short-trunked elephant.
There are elephants with shorter trunks than the African elephant.
There are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the elephants you find in India.
The Asian elephants' trunks are actually shorter.
They're shorter, yes.
Still.
And they're also not quite as big.
But still long in comparison to the rest of the body, though.
Oh, that's where you've gone, have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we just throw in the giraffe and the neck then, while we're at it?
Can you imagine a giraffe if it didn't have...
For lack of criticism, the neck of a giraffe grew longer.
And then you'll find there's an animal in that family that it's called a Chinook. Doesn't quite have a very long neck, but it's not short either. Medium-sized neck. If you look at the llama also has a fairly elongated neck.
Indeed.
As does that animal that is usually found in the desert. Big, long with a hump.
The camel.
It's called a camel.
Well, that's what I see. But surely with all the hints, you guys, you couldn't get it.
If you're in Western Sahara, you would find a dromedary, which has two humps.
Surely. Okay. Chadian proverb.
Chadian proverb.
Not Chadis.
No, please.
And the current president is called who?
Mohammed Kaka
Elba.
Debi. No.
Debi.
He's
Idris
the
Deby
son.
was his
He's the
father.
son. He's the son,
He's the son
of Idris Deby.
Yes, he
the
is
gentleman who
Mohammed-
led from the front.
Right.
Mohammed Kaka Debi.
Mohammed Kaka Debi. And the chairperson of the African Union Commission is also from Chad.
Yes.
Musa Faki Mahamat.
Mm.
Hi. We now know very many Chadis.
Sindio.
All right, 10 minutes after 7. So now let's introduce our guest. Hashtag Justice Thursdays, where we have conversations every Thursday about access to justice, especially making sure that everybody has a way of getting access to justice. Okay, so now, our guest this morning is called Sylvia Muruabe. Sylvia is a program manager at an organization called Crime C Poa. Crime C Poa. Sylvia, welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
It's good to have you. That is the hot seat. But because you work with the community, so it's not going to be at you hot. It's just relatively warm.
Okay.
It's good to have you. Tell us about Crime Sipoa. What is it all about?
Okay, thank you, Eric. It's good to be here this morning. So Crime Sipoa is just a youth-centric organization. So we focus on youth who we categorize largely as vulnerable and at risk. And our whole aim is to be able to empower them, to be able to mentor them so that they can be able to get out of crime and just a life of crime. So we do this through various programs with the aim of informing, reforming, and transforming. So our community outreach program goes to the schools, goes to the prisons, goes to just communities to be able to talk to this youth, to be able to mentor them through life skills, to be able to encourage them so that they can be able to have both a behavior and attitude change. We don't just want you to change your behavior and stop making the decisions that are getting you into trouble, but we want your attitude to change as well. We also have our Access to Justice wing, which now goes on to teach these communities and the youth the law, because we realize in a lot of instances, a lot of people come into conflict with the law not because of any other thing, but because they don't know what the law says, and you will never plead ignorance and expect that to absolve you from any responsibility. So we have our Access to Justice wing that goes to teach the communities the law, their rights and their responsibilities, and how to respond in such situations. And then our last wing is our Social Enterprise wing. So after we have mentored you, after we have taught you all these things, after we've taught you the law, what skills can we empower you with so that you can be able to make a living for yourself, you can be able to support yourself and your family. So just bring that whole the holistic approach in dealing with the youth. So we're just giving access to opportunities, access to justice, access to information. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, it is.
How do you determine who to pass this delightful information to? How do you decide where you're going to and why it is that they are more deserved than perhaps some other part of the country and some other group?
Okay. So actually when Crime Sipoa began in prison, in committee actually. So the vision of our founder, at that point our founder had been wrongfully incarcerated, so he was at committee, and he realized that the large number of new inmates that were coming in every day were youth, just kids between the ages of 18 and 20. And he had it upon his heart to be able to, how can we get to these kids so that they do not end up here? So as we started there, and then eventually now when he came out, and it's just going to those areas where most of these children were coming from. That's how we had started. Now, through the years, how we have grown is as we go into a community, as we meet the need in that community, we're able to get other areas. For example, we have recently, over the last 2 years as COVID has hit, as we went to the community just to do a bit of COVID relief, we are able to interact with the community and get to understand the needs that they are and see where our intervention is needed. So we have managed to expand to areas like Kisumu. Right now we're in Kisumu, we are in Nakuru, we are in areas of Kajiado around Rongai. As we interact in the communities and with the just in the schools and the areas that we are, just starting with a small circle of influence where our office is, then in prison, then we're able to get to understand and other areas that are in need of these services, that we are seeing just the crime rates maybe increasing. We are seeing high rates of for example, recently in Kajiado, we've seen that there's been a lot of cases of defilement, a lot of cases of sexual and gender-based violence, and we are able now to go into those areas to try and bring in intervention to deal with that.
How would you
go ahead, please?
How would you categorize crime in terms of levels among young people in the areas in which you are, in scale of 1 to 5, for example, 5 being the worst?
It varies. So, and it varies in type and in the level, severity, yes. So, for example, let me start with an area like Kisumu. We started in Kisumu, I think it was sometime last year. And this time it was a few youth who had heard about Crime Sipua who reached out and they're like, in our area, what's the issues we've had is we have a lot of... not even gangs, we've had a lot of incidences where we have theft. We have, and this is done by students who are students during the day, and then in the evening they're breaking houses. Yes, and just such. So they would say at that point their biggest need was to deal with the housebreaking, the phone snatching, and we've realized it's among the school-going kids. So how do we intervene with that? That I would have said maybe at that point the severity was around 4 to 5. Then as we continue going with interventions, as we continue to get these kids before it gets worse, we have seen instances where it has reduced. In areas like Rongai, for example, in Kajiado County in general, in the recent we've been seeing a lot of cases where they have been coming to our office. We have a resource center in Rongai. People are just coming and like, there was a rape case, there was a defilement case, there was all this gender-based violence. We've done a couple of community forums there to be able to address such issues. And that is one of the crimes that that area at this point I would say is 5, that we are trying to work on to reduce so that we get to a point where it's... Our main vision is to get to a place where we have a crime-free society. Right. So we're just trying to put in the building blocks to be able to reduce it as the time goes on. Yes.
Even as you say, establish that there is crime. Yes. Establish that there are people who are coming forward to say, this is what. So what are the interventions? Because somebody who's a student during the day has something that they're doing. Yes. And then is a thief at night, a thug at night. I'm interested as to what are the interventions that you would bring about to have these young people stop this?
Very good question, Du. So one of the methodologies that we use, that we have been using is, for example, I mentioned we have a community outreach program. So through our community outreach and access to justice most of the time, we get into the community and start by having that conversation. Let's have the conversation. Let's sit down with the various stakeholders, not just the community, the parents and the children. Let's sit down with the various players in the criminal justice system. So in each of our communities, you'd find we have maybe a representative from the National Police, we have a representative from the DPP, we have a representative, depending on what we're discussing on that day, from the Judiciary. We have a representative from... if we're dealing with SGB, we have a representative, from the gender office. We're able to sit down, first of all, let's identify where the problem is. Yeah. Why is it that crime rates are increasing? What is it that is causing this student who has something to do to leave class and go to steal? Is it just because they feel that, okay, it's peer pressure, I want to look macho, so... I'm doing it not because I need it, but because I feel it's cool to do it. So once we are able to identify what the issue is that is causing the people to get into it, then we're able to work with the community to find the solution. So let's say we are finding, okay, the issue is peer pressure. You want to be able to look cool. You think that is what will make you look cool. How can we be able to, let's work around it. There are other ways, because as I mentioned, behavior and attitude change. So your behavior is just being affected by your attitude. So can we be able to work on an attitude change in the sense that show you the avenues that are different, that are better for you. When we find it's instances where you're engaging in crime because you're trying to just put food on the table for yourself and your family, different interventions. We're like, okay, so we've realized this is a problem. So we work with the community. We're like, okay, it's opportunities to job, opportunities to access to opportunities that you do not have. How can we link you maybe with people with the skills that you have so that you can have something to do? If it's skills that you don't have, can we train you in those skills that will help you to be able to have something different to do, to be able to get to earn a living and get out of crime? Just so it's usually that we try and sit down, because we don't want to come in like we know it all. We want to come and talk to the community. Let's find out where the problem is, what the cause is, and then let's tailor make the solution based on what the issue is.
Give us a case study of a community where you went in and you found out the various reasons why the youth are engaging in crime and what you did. What solutions you came up with together with the community, as you say?
Okay. Let me think. At the top of my head, I'll use again Kisumu.
Okay.
So as I mentioned before, Kisumu is where we're actually still working. It's still ongoing. So the first instance we had in Kisumu, we had youth from 3 different areas. Right now we're in 3 different areas. We have Obunga, Nyalenda, and Manyata, who reached out, and the crime rates, especially during COVID, have skyrocketed. So this is the issue we are having at the moment, and we have realized that it's kids. So what do we do? So we sat down with the youth. We got to understand their issue. Then the first thing that we did was school intervention. So we went to the various areas and the various schools that maybe we were thinking might be the hotbeds. So got the permission, got to be able to come to the schools just to talk to the kids and to mentor the kids, get to understand where they're coming from. We get to understand what the issues are. In some instances, we're finding maybe the issue is drugs. We're finding that some instances, maybe they're just trying to get something home. Some instances, it's just family background. So we've been managing, and we're still doing it actually, just having that life skills training with the kids in school. Another thing that we continue to as we are talking to the kids in school, earlier on this year, we had a forum early in February, which was just a criminal justice accountability. So we sat down with now their parents, the stakeholders. We sat down, we had representatives from the DPP, representatives from the police, from the judiciary, to have the conversation. We're like, this is what is happening at the moment. Crime has increased. We're in the process of trying to reduce that. This is the issues that have been brought down. We are now listening to what the issues are talking. We even had boda members there. We had matatu sector. We just be able to sit down as a community and discuss this. Let's find out, okay, these are the issues that we have faced. These are the issues we're having with maybe the police. The police is telling us these are the issues we're having with the community. How can we collaborate so that we are able to deal with it? So starting that conversation.
What are the main issues? What are the main cause that what was the main reason that was leading these kids, as you call them, to crime?
Okay. So some of the, as I mentioned, some of the reasons that we've gotten, for example, and I remember one of these days we did our wellness officer tells us it's called art therapy, where you just give the kids a chance just to draw what it is that you think is the problem, and then we can be able to see from that. And we've seen some kids who are able to draw and say, okay, I do this, maybe I engage in drugs or I sell drugs because my parents give me that to sell because that's how my fees is supposed to be raised, for example. Or we don't have food at home sometimes, so I need to get money. So once I get from school, we can't sleep hungry, so I'm trying to get that. Sometimes it's that those ones of, it's just, it looks like everyone is doing it, not so. But that's some of the reasons. That's from the student side, for example. We've had other instances where I wouldn't say, did they really give the reason? Where at that point, as I've said, we had the chairman of the Boda Association there in Kondele saying that you've seen instances where they are used by other people. Like at that point, we are saying boda, and I know in the last couple of weeks, boda have been on the spotlight, and they're like boda. It's just that a lot of people want to use them, and they've seen the instances where they are used is because maybe you have someone who's young, who's new in the industry, and someone is promising you quick money. And they're like, let me make that quick money. I don't care really what the other person is doing. So if we have noticing that those are the gaps, and these are gaps that having the stakeholders in that meeting makes it easier for them to also realize, okay, this is where the community is. This is where we can collaborate, because part of the National Police Service mandate is we have the community policing wing. And the community policing is just to help us to be able to work as communities with the police to be able to make our communities safer for everyone. I don't want to be able to walk out there and not feel safe. I want to be able to walk out and feel like, okay, I don't have to watch my back. I don't have to always make sure my phone is tucked into the deepest part of my bag. But now having those conversations is a start. And we believe that as we continue with these conversations, as we continue involving the stakeholders, as we continue, that's a case study that I believe coming back in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, we should be able to have seen significant growth, because we've already started seeing it. Right now,
what
just
I'm not
last
getting,
week.
sorry, Sylvia, what I'm not getting
okay.
is the different groups of youth
Yes.
have raised their issues.
Yes.
There are those who are in school and they're saying the reasons why they are getting into crime.
Yes.
There are those who are out of school and they're in some form of business, whether they're motorbike riders, and they're telling you why they're getting into crime. So were you able then to map and say these are the main areas that we need to focus on, and what exactly are you doing? For example, with the school-going children, what exactly are you doing to get them out of crime?
Okay. Let me see if I can clarify it a little better. Okay.
So taking the example of the kids who said, it's because my parents expect me to go and sell the drugs because that's how we make our living. Or I need to supplement our domestic income so that we can earn a living, and the others. So what are you doing? What interventions are you coming up with to get them off crime?
Okay. So, using that example, so one of the things that we've also tried to do with that is, other than the mentorship that we do, just the life skills mentorship that we're trying to talk to them to be able to counsel them, because we also have a team of psychologists that help us through that, is also to involve the parents in the process. Because we can talk to the kids, we can try and mentor the kids, might be able to see the sense in it. But if the situation back home doesn't change, that would have been doing zero work. So one of the interventions that we try to do is also involve the parents. So after we've gotten that, I know in one of the schools that we've worked in, here in Nairobi, for example, we're able to sit down, bring the parents on a specific day, sit down and like, okay, these are the issues that your children are facing. These are the issues that they've said are causing them either to crime or into drugs and all this other antisocial behavior. And these are the contributing factors that they have given. And the contributing factors include you guys. So can we work together? Because if it doesn't change with you, then your kids will not see that. So our interventions are trying to be as community-based as possible. So we get in, let's notice the problem. Let's involve whoever is part of the problem to find the solution to the problem and to deal with that problem. So as we speak to the parents, we're able to counsel them as well. And we are hoping, because at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do. I can be able to come and talk and make all that changes. But for it to work, we need to have the goodwill
of
everybody.
I'm just getting a sense that the things that you're bringing to the fore, even as you have all these conversations, are not alien to the community.
Sure.
The members of that community already know these are our kids. This is so and so. This is what they do. They're the ones who are robbing us,
Yes.
and they can also tell the reason why this child is ending up where they are. They can tell. I mean, the folks are not able to afford to put a meal on the table, so these kids are then out there. Or the folks are busy throughout the day. They're not able to actually monitor what the child is doing. So the child has got into bad company. Or huyu mama yake na baba yake wanauza bangi, and that's why this kid is selling bangi. It's coming from mama yake. So there's nothing new really in terms of the community and getting to understand the reasons that their youth are getting involved in crime. So that's what I was asking. So what exactly, after you get to understand, because now you're the stranger in this conversation, what interventions do you support the community to eradicate or to reduce the incidences of crime or the reasons why the people are getting involved in crime?
Okay. I mentioned at the beginning that we have what we call our social enterprise wing. So with our social enterprise wing, which is now what is trying to give you an alternative, to give you that access to opportunities. So one of those, I know we've had, like one of our beneficiaries, we had like a digital livelihoods class. So if it's to empower you with skills, to work on the computer, to be able to just have that digital literacy. And I know like one of our very first beneficiaries was able to get to a point where she finished that just basic computer with us. She was able to move to DDD, then to Moringa, graduated from Akira Chicks, I think, towards the end of this year. And now she's able to support her family. She's able to just earn that living and be able to live comfortably. So one of the things is now, okay, it's the access to opportunities that you don't have. Can we are able to link you up or give you those skills to be able to get you that opportunity? One of the things that we also do, for example, if just various skills, even when you go, because we don't just work in the community, we also work in the prisons. So teaching them the skills. For example, right now we've been teaching people on just to make soap, because you can be able to make that soap, you can be able to sell it, to get that, to earn that living. We're giving you alternatives to that life of crime. We don't want, okay, as you've said, those are things that are known. It's not an alien conversation on, okay, this is the issue, it's just maybe unique to the different different community groups. But the intervention is now, okay, now that's the access you need. Others, if it's just you need to go to school, for example, you want to go to school and you don't have can we be able to get you sponsorship? Can we be able to link you up with partners who can be able to get you through school so that you can be able to advance your knowledge, so that you can be able to, again, support yourself. So just giving all that.
I'm keen on understanding this.
Yes,
The conversation was about getting some of these young people to actually understand the law.
Yes.
And even as you said it, I was thinking, there's so much in the law. What do you select as being the key ingredients in the curriculum, if you have a curriculum, for training these people, and why do you select those aspects of the law?
Okay.
And I also want to know how you go about training people to understand the law and the ramifications of it. Because you can hear it, you can be taught, but internalizing it is a different matter. And what we're discussing here seems to be internalizing it, so that it's part of the behavior change that you hope to see.
Yes. Thank you, Siti, for that. So, as just that access to justice, we have a paralegal training. So, with the paralegal training, what the aim is...
Who do you train?
Community members. So
how do you choose them?
So, we are able to... we go through, like, vetting process. So, we are... within the youth groups, so within the communities rather than that we work with, we're able to send out an application for just looking for specific criteria. We want people who are already involved in the community work, who are at least have a certain level of education, who are just have shown that interest in being able to help their community, for example.
Do you also consider how acceptable these people are to the community?
Yes.
It's a criteria you look for.
Yes, because we don't want. I don't want to train Sylvia, and Sylvia is one of those people in the community who no one listens to, for example, so that they look at me and they have already rejected the message because it's coming from Sylvia.
Okay.
So having that in mind, as you've asked about a curriculum, so Sharia, we have under our Access to Justice program, we have what we call Sharia Mashinani, which is a project that we envisioned together with Strathmore University Law School back in 2019, which was just to be able to train those community paralegals to help with disseminating that legal information to the ground. So we started with our first cohort who were trained at Strathmore. We had worked on a curriculum together. We trained them from Kibra. That was in 2019. And then as we have gone through the years, I don't know how many, a lot of Kenyans are not familiar with National Paralegal Society of Kenya. So yes, there is a National Paralegal Society of Kenya.
There is,
Yes,
okay.
Yes, there is.
And who is allowed to join?
So National Paralegal Society of Kenya is currently like a group of CSOs who...
CSO?
Civil society organizations. Yes. Civil society organizations who are keen in just making justice accessible to the mashinani, let me just put it like that, to the grassroots levels, to as far as they can go. So under the National Paralegal Society, we have paralegals who have been trained. Right now it has the key organizations that started the society are Legal Resources Foundation, ICJ Kenya, Kituo cha Sheria, and the other one is SECPJ. I've forgotten the full name. I'll tell you in a minute. So with that, there's a curriculum that has been put together that shows the key things that a community paralegal needs to know to be able to help them to know how to help their community. So with that, we're able to do, okay, so for community paralegal, you need to know maybe the basic things, the cost structure. You need to know just the general things maybe about criminal law and how to access the courts. You need to know something to do with community building and mobilization. You need to know something. So there's that entire curriculum that is able to guide as we go into training the paralegals so that they can be able to, in turn, train and help or deal with any justice issues that are
prevalent in that
community. Yes, in that community. And just 2 weeks ago, I'm actually currently in the middle of training. We're training paralegals in Kisumu and Vihiga counties. So we have currently a team of 73 who we are training just to be able to deal with those issues.
I'm interested to
hold
know.
on, City.
You want me to hold on?
Yes.
Consider it
It's
held.
24 to 8. Let's take this quick break, then we continue the conversation. Sylvia Murabe is the program manager at an organization called Crime Power. We are talking about accessing to justice, the situation on the ground, working in the communities to access justice, to understand justice and how the justice system works. Time for us to take that quick break, take a look at the weather and traffic. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Una postoria tuni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione source hizo views. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes ama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi watoina mayouth wetu, usidanganywe, erevuka na ujibambe na burudani safe na masomo mtandaoni.
For information, visit cop.ke-cirt.go.ke/ report incidents on ke-cirt.go.ke or call 0703 042 700. The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
The group of leaders we are having now, these are just like the polymers. The chemical composition is the same.
Are you corruptible?
Hopefully not.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
People who have done about 300 speeches and they are not saying anything. What makes you think that they will come in with something really dramatic?
Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
Dare for
fast relief from fever? Take Cipladon. The fizz works to relieve pain and fever faster.
Cloudy conditions at 19 in Nairobi, highs of 28 and lows of 15. At 16 degrees, Nakuru is sunny, highs of 29 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 13 in Nyeri, where it's partly sunny at 15, highs of 28. And Eldoret at 14 is cloudy, highs of 27 and lows of 13. Mostly sunny conditions now in Mombasa at 28, highs of 33 and lows of 27. And we're looking at cloudy conditions in Malindi with some rain, highs of 32 and lows of 25. It's cloudy at 21 in Kisumu, 29 will be the high and lows of 19. Cloudy at 20 in Kakamega, 31 will be the high and lows of 15. Continues to rain in Kampala at 20. 28 will be the high. We're looking at highs of 32 in a partly sunny Dar es Salaam, currently at 25. And at 15 degrees, Johannesburg is sunny. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 15. While it's mostly clear in Lagos at 28, highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's clear in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 35 today and lows of 24. Uhuru Highway from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout out into the city and then into Westlands is where we're looking at a lot of traffic this morning. Not too bad on Langata Road today. Going towards the roundabout, but then it's going to pick up some just as you pass the airport. It's going to slow down some bit, and then you go towards the roundabout at Timor, and it picks up quite significantly. Okay, so there's traffic on Langata Road. All that just to say that. We have a lot of traffic also building on the Thika Superhighway, Thika Road. Kiambu Road is also doing that thing, and coming out of Westlands as well, pretty heavy then going towards Chiromo. So normal traffic hour business, which has started a few minutes ago and likely to be this way for some time. Are you stuck somewhere? I see we have a couple of accidents, nothing too terrible, but it's slowing stuff down on the Thika Superhighway as well as Gong Road. Keep an eye on things and talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
19 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Right. What I wanted to ask was, when you ask people to apply, what's the response like?
For example, in this last training, I had I sent out...
Okay. How many people did you expect? How many people could you accommodate? What had you factored in as the ideal number of people whom you wanted?
For this training, actually, I was looking forward to around 60.
60?
Yes.
Okay.
I got around 90 responses just to be able to work it out. And then I ended up with... Actually, we went through the 90 responses. All of them would have qualified. So like, okay, let's try and accommodate all of them.
Good plan.
And then at the day of the training, I think only 75 showed up. Like, okay, so they've already reduced the number themselves for us.
Yes.
So we're able to do, and they were consistent throughout. We had that first week as physical training, and then we're continuing with the rest as we seek to proceed as online. So it was really overwhelming. I wasn't really expecting them to come out that much as they want to do paralegal studies. But the classes were really interactive. They were really keen on just getting to understand these issues, to get to share what they have been looking at or what they have been dealing with in the communities on a daily basis and just find answers. And to have just, we had trainers from all over. We had trainers who came from, I mentioned Strathmore Law School as our partner, so we had lecturers from there. We had just advocates from the law firms that we partner with. We had even the judiciary. We had at least the presiding judge from Kisumu to come and just facilitate a session to be able to introduce them to what they do in the court and the work that paralegals are able to help them with in the court. And that was just something to be able to encourage them to understand that the work that they do in just helping people access justice is not in vain.
So is there a beyond to this training?
Yes.
Is the training sufficient only for handling matters within the communities, or is there some sort of certification they can seek so that that training can help them beyond the work they do within the communities?
Yes. So the goal is the first goal is especially is just to, of course, help them to be able to help their communities. But as I mentioned, with the Paralegal Society of Kenya, there is certification that at the end of the training where they're able to check and like, okay, you've gone through this training, you have gained skills in this area, and then you can be able to be certified as a paralegal to be able to just have that help your work, so that you're not really tied down to now because I am a member of Kondele or Manyata, that's the only place that I am confined to be able to work with that information or that certificate that I have as a paralegal at the end of the day.
Who is the issuing authority for the certificate?
So right now, okay, because we have the Legal Aid Act 2016. So with the Legal Aid Act 2016, there is the National Legal Aid Service that is set out, or rather set up as who's supposed to be ensuring that paralegal studies in Kenya, or the paralegal work in Kenya is streamlined. So there's right now the NLAS is supposed to be the body that offers full certification. So at the moment there's NLAS, there's NPSK, but they are working just to put that streamlined so that we are able to, if you're certified, if you're trained under all this, you're trained under the NPSK and you're able to get that curriculum and manual, then there's just a way that you can be, okay, I don't want to put it as a way, but there is just, how do I put it? Is it not really an exam, but there is a way that they can be able to gauge your training so that you can be able to, it's almost like, let me put it, it's almost
There's
like
a course
LSK.
that when you complete, it allows them to determine your understanding, your competence, and so forth.
Yes.
Now, when you've got this certification,
Yes.
does it open the door where one can seek further legal training?
There has been debate on that, actually. I think that's one of that's one of the questions. You see, like the legal profession in this country, to some extent, is threatened by paralegals. To be honest,
why?
Because there's just that feeling that if paralegals are able to do the work that lawyers do, will you need lawyers?
No. You see, it's like saying doctors are threatened by nurses and by clinical officers. They are not. You see, when you assume it's one profession, you go wrong.
True.
Nursing is a completely separate profession from the practice of medicine or being a doctor. As are clinical officers, yes, there are great similarities, but the specific role within that setup, it's not really the same.
Yes.
Now, paralegals have a role.
Yes.
And it's a role that lawyers may think they can actually ascend to and may have even accommodated. But there is space for all these other people to work in this. Now, the reason why I ask is this. When you look at the number of people who are looking for an opportunity, not just to be useful, but to earn a living gainfully, when you offer training such as that one, you see, you are offering a course for a paralegal. But the way it's understood in the community, who ni wakili.
Kabisa. So that was just a precursor to my answer.
Yes.
That there has been in the past a little bit of feelings of threaten that, okay, paralegal will come over and take my work as an advocate, and I won't, because it's easier and cheaper to access a paralegal to help with legal work. But in terms of furthering your training, you can be able to maybe go back to campus and be able, though law does not really recognize, bridging that I started if I didn't get the qualification that I started and did a certificate or any. So that usually you can be able to get into a college, be able to do the law. What the trouble will come in at most of the time when you want to get into the Kenya School of Law to get that postgraduate diploma. So usually there are times where they have looked at it and like, okay, maybe you have done this. We can be able to give you a pre-bar exam to allow you to now sit for the advocates training program. And that happens. And Actually, the Kenya School of Law also has a paralegal training unit, so that they can be able to train and give you certification under the Council of Legal Education as well. So there are opportunities at the moment as to their clear-cutness as of how you can be able to grow into the profession.
It's not clear.
No, but Eric, you see, this is the point. Somebody can actually have a career as a paralegal.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes. A good one.
So,
People even work in law firms, yes.
Yes.
Even as we talk about these interventions that are being made at the community level with those who've been involved in crime, you did mention and say that severity of crime is at a 5 in some areas than when it comes to sexual-based violence, gender-based violence. So I'm curious as to the interventions that are being made there. For example, if in the Kondele area you are able to circumvent these issues and say, let's have a chat about why would you be involved in stealing at night, and it's clear that, okay, well, I don't have enough, my parents are making me sell drugs, or I have to be involved in crime because I don't have enough to eat. It's a different kind of crime when it's of sexual nature. How do you intervene in that? Because sometimes we see that sexual crime is coupled with stealing and things like that. But then from what we've seen and studied from different case studies, that people that are involved in sexual crime are not necessarily doing it because they don't have money. So how do you then intervene in those situations to get these young people to stop?
When it comes to sexual offenses, as you mentioned, the nature is completely different. You can never say that the excuse that I raped someone is because I was hungry. There's no excuse.
Right.
And the one thing that, and as I mentioned, right now it's not even just been rape, it's been defilement. So school-going kids, there's a case that we're currently following up on one of such issues. And our biggest concern there is to get justice for these victims. Justice for this, for the survivors of such acts. So, like one of the things again is, first, if it's a child involve the children's office, involve the police officers. Let's follow up. Let's first of all remove this person from circulation. Then we can be able to, if there can be rehabilitation, we can work on now rehabilitation behind bars and try and see, okay, this is how, this was your mindset, but we are not trying to deal with you from outside. That's I think it's one of those things that
allow me to intervene and ask this question. In this work that you do, these perpetrators of sexual violence, as you call them, what is the understanding of what they are doing? Because when I hear of rape cases, what I'm hearing is a criminal who likes to perpetrate violence, but they are more, they've chosen to use sex as the tool for this violence, but it's still violence.
Yes.
Okay? Now, people who perpetrate these crimes, what do they understand to be, when they do it, what do they understand themselves to be doing? I ask this question because it follows that when we talk about gender-based violence, and you ask the perpetrators, what do they understand they are doing? See, there's our interpretation of it, but then there are people who feel, for instance, there are those men who think women shouldn't talk back to them. And they think it is very normal if a woman talks back to you, that the response should be a slap. Now, do you bother to find out how it is these individuals are socialized to the point where they seem to think that these things that they're doing are
okay?
Yeah.
One of the campaigns that we ran most of last year was on SGBV. Our hashtag was SGBV Inatuchuk. And we sat down in communities and we realized, as you mentioned, that a lot of people don't understand even what constitutes sexual violence. First of all, the issue of consent is one that a lot of people still don't understand. There's the issue of, okay,
what are the limits? I think people just always want to know is like, okay, what are the limits that I can go to that are permissible, that are permissible before I'm arrested for something. Right. And we try to be able to talk to these young men and women to make them understand that these are the constituting factors. That first of all, there has to be, when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence, the one thing that you have to have in mind is consent. And consent, this is the form that it has to be expressed. You can't say that I looked at you, you thought, okay, she's given me permission. So getting them to understand that first. So we've had those conversations. These are conversations that we've not had. We've brought in psychologists because there are things I can't maybe be able to, so that if I can't understand that, if I can't be able to get that psychology, the psychologist can be able to get to understand where these people are coming from and deal with that issues. Now, when we get to a point that we have done all this and someone is still a perpetrator in this case, now we follow up with the law. Like, okay, we gave you the information that you needed to keep out of it. We tried to understand and even bring a psychologist in to help you with the psychology that goes behind it. It still didn't work. So let's deal with it. And as we're dealing with that, we're still trying to get the communities, because we realize even in communities, because I don't know if it's an African or Kenyan culture that we don't like to talk about such things. So that you find instances, a girl is raped and you're told, usiseme, it will bring shame to the
it's still
shame
taboo.
to the family. It's still taboo. So it goes, the girl is or whoever is the victim at this point feels like they're the ones who are, on the wrong. And sometimes even we've had instances where the men are like, okay, if a man is the one who was a victim of gender violence, even when they want to report, they're afraid that they will go to the officer and be like, hey, mwanaume unachapwa aje. How is that possible? So getting them to understand, first of all, that when it comes to sexual and gender-based violence, it can happen to either gender. And then get them to understand the constituents of it, and then how to act, where to report, what to do, the things to follow through in case you or someone you know is ever in such a situation. And when that situation happens, unfortunately, are we able to now follow up to find justice for the victims?
Okay. I want to go into one question before we conclude the conversation. You mentioned that your organization, Crime Sipoa, was founded by somebody who had been wrongfully incarcerated. And I'm sure through working with the community, you've come across very many cases where people have a negative interaction with the justice system. Wrongful incarceration, harassment by police officers or law enforcement officers, being taken through an injustice throughout the system. How do you deal with such cases? How do you support people who go through such?
Okay. I want to give an example of one of the very first forums that we had was in Kibra in early 2018. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a case of a young man called Carlton Minor.
Yep.
Who had been killed by a police officer at that point, and there was a lot of uproar in the community. And at that point, there was just a dialogue, just to bring in the police, bring in the community, and let's sort our issues. The community is complaining that they feel more unsafe with the police around than when the police are not there. And if we're able to sit down and have this conversation, and we've had these conversations, and the conversation gets heated because the community is feeling aggrieved because they're faced injustice. They feel like they have been just, especially when you go into the informal settlements, they feel that it has been criminalized to be poor.
Yep.
So they're already a target. You're already up to no good by the time you're seen. So if we've found that in instances where we're able to bring the stakeholders, we're bringing the key players in the justice system, criminal justice system, with the community, we're able to have these conversations. They're able to open up and say, these are the issues that we're facing. This is how we feel you're treating us, and you're not being fair.
And that helps.
That helps because they're able, and the police, we found that, for example, in Kibra, they're able to get to a conclusion where, like, okay, this may have happened. It's not the entire force. It may have been this, but these are the steps we are taking to ensure that going forward you can trust us. You can be able to walk into the office and know that I'm coming to find help, and not just feel because I've walked into the police station, I'm in trouble, because many people don't know that they can walk into the police station to get help for issues. So when we're able to bring them, we're able to bring that, raise that issue, we're able to bridge that gap. They're able to know, okay, they're accessible. We can be able to talk, they can be able to see where we've gone wrong. We own up also as community where we've gone wrong, and then we're able to start working together towards
harmonious coexistence.
Thank you.
Sylvia,
Exactly.
thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Eric.
Sylvia Murwabe is a program manager at Crime Power. We've been talking about accessing justice at the community level, the various ways in which people get to understand the law, people get to know how to navigate the criminal justice system or just the justice system, and good work that you're doing. Keep doing the good work.
Thank you so much for having me.
And keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, Jimmy Wanjigi is in the studio with us. Good morning, it's 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. The National Land Commission has revisited Ontulili Mount Kenya's quarters versus Angaine family case and involved interested parties targeting to expedite a ruling by July this year. The squatters appealed to the NLC, claiming they were the rightful owners of the land located in Timau, Meru County, since the late President Jomo Kenyatta located them in 1975, but the late Land Minister Jackson Angaine excised them. Speaking to the media at Nanyuki Town, James Tutoek, the chairperson of the Committee on Historical Land Injustices, said they had not concluded on the hearing because they needed more time to determine the main issues in the case. Now, Kenya today joins the world in celebrating World TB Day. This annual event aims to raise awareness about the impact of TB on health, community and the economy, in addition to strengthening strategies to address it. This year's theme, Investing to Eradicate TB, Save Lives, aims to push leaders around the world to invest resources to eradicate the disease. According to the Ministry of Health, there are more than 100,000 people in the country with TB. This comes at a time when TB infections have increased worldwide due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as the number of patients seeking treatment in hospitals has decreased since 2020. According to the World Health Organization, TB is one of the leading causes of death in the world. Now, the media has been challenged to take a proactive role in addressing climate change with stakeholders in the global disaster risk reduction sector, terming it the only magic bullet to the unending disaster. The stakeholders say it is crucial for the media to ensure wide coverage of climate change-related issues if the problem is to be addressed once and for all. The experts who spoke during a cross-regional co-production workshop in Bagatelle, Mauritius, that brought together media professionals from Asia Pacific and Africa further called for the collaborative approach to reducing climate change-related disasters. They said the media has a shared responsibility in reducing disaster risk. Now, a 48-year-old man was killed by hippopotamus while fishing at Athi River in Kamulamba village in Kibwezi East Sub-County. The deceased Kioko Katuni had sustained serious injury on the right leg during the incident. Makueni County Police Commander Joseph Olinapeyan, confirming the incident, said when police accompanied by KWS Rangers rushed the scene, they found the man had already succumbed to his injuries. The body of the deceased was taken to Kambu Sub-County Hospital mortuary awaiting autopsy. And a black box from the crashed China Eastern airliner has been recovered as investigators try to determine what made the jet carrying 132 passengers nosedive into a mountainside in southern China. The cause of the disaster has mystified aviation authorities, who have scoured rugged terrains for clues, finding no survivors from what is almost certain to be China's deadliest plane crash in nearly 30 years. Aviation officials confirmed they had found a black box they believed to be the cockpit voice recorder, which should provide important clues to the cause of the crash. And Madeleine Albright, a Czech immigrant who went on to become the first female Secretary of State in U.S. history, has died aged 84. The longtime foreign policy veteran Albright became America's top diplomat in 1997 during the Clinton government. Often hailed as a champion of democracy, Albright was instrumental in efforts to end ethnic cleansing in Kosovo. Her death from cancer was confirmed by her family In a statement, born Marie Jana Kobelova in Prague in 1937, in what was then Czechoslovakia, Albright was the daughter of Czechoslovak diplomat who was forced into exile after the occupation of his country by Nazi Germany in 1939. She moved to the United States in 1948. The same year, her family applied for political asylum, arguing that they were unable to return home as opponents of their country's communist regime. She became a U.S. citizen in 1957. Our thoughts and prayers to the family. And as the world continues to follow on war in Ukraine and hope that it ends so that lives can be saved and normalcy restored, former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger made a direct appeal to the Russian people in a video posted on social media, asking them to resist their country's disinformation.
As a longtime friend of the Russian people, I hope that you will hear what I have to say. I know that your government has told you that this is a war to denazify Ukraine. Denazify Ukraine. This is not true. Ukraine is a country with a Jewish president, I might add, whose father's 3 brothers were all murdered by the Nazis. You see, Ukraine did not start this war, neither did nationalists or Nazis. Those in power in the Kremlin started this war. This is not the Russian people's war.
The Hollywood star asked the Russian soldiers in Ukraine to stand and stop the war in Ukraine because the war is not for the people of Russia. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Not looking any better on the Thika Superhighway this morning. Quite a lot of it coming off of that junction from Outer Ring into the city. Really heavy. Also on Kiambu Road this morning. Limuru Road. Really crazy as well. Let's look at how that connects then into Westlands. Parklands, Chiromo, and then Wangari Maathai Way. All really packed as well. Ring Road, Westlands, coming off of Waiaki Way. How about we forget all of that and use the Red Hill Link Road to get out of the mess that is Westlands this morning. Coming into Maranga Road and then into the city as well. That continues at the Globe Cinema overpass. All roads lead into the CBD as usual. Looking onto Jogo Road, it's quite tight. Then going off of Langata Road towards Railozinga Way, that continues to be quite crazy as well. What are we looking at in terms of Mombasa Road heading out into the city? Building up as well. We saw that Cabanas mess yesterday. Hopefully we will not repeat the same today, but just in case we do, think about using the southern bypass out of the city and then get back in a lot easier. There's an option for you. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE. Keep things moving this Thursday even.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This
it's 8 minutes after 8. Good
Room.
morning, and how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. Ndu says it's Wednesday. We say it's Thursday. It's also the first Friday of the week. It's the 24th day. What do you want? You want it to be Saturday?
You want it to be Sunday?
We can make it Sunday.
We can have 8 days in the week, should you like.
You know, it's the 24th day of March 2022. If you're joining us, thank you very much for tuning in on SpiceFM or joining us on our YouTube and Facebook live stream, or also those who are joining us on KTN Home Now. For the next 1 hour, we'll be live on TV as well. We have a guest in the studio, is a presidential aspirant. And before we introduce His Excellency to be Mutarajiwa, let's hear the day's proverb.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long. This is a Chadian proverb.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of an elephant grew very long.
Yes.
Let things be.
Well, if you let things be, they will be.
They'll grow very long.
Yes. But I think the presence of our guest in the studio today tells you he's not willing to let things be. Yes, he wants to shake up things a little bit. And he says, this is the way people go. I says, no, we don't really have to go this way. We can also go this way.
We have another way to go.
Yes.
He's the one who criticized the warthog.
Yes.
So the teeth didn't grow. For lack of criticism,
yes,
the trunk of an elephant grew very long.
This
is from Chad.
From Chad.
Okay.
Once again, for those who didn't hear what we said in the morning, this is the country where the leader went to war and led from the front. And not long after that, he became an ancestor.
Indeed.
Yes, but then his son took over.
He died in the front lines.
Yes.
Chad. Okay, time for us now to introduce our guest this morning. Jimmy Wanjigi is a businessman, business mogul. Is that what they call him? And is now a presidential aspirant with the Safina Party. Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Eric, asante sana. It's good to see all three of you here. Nundu, CT, and of course the viewers tuned in. I want to correct you, Eric. I'm a presidential nominee, not aspirant.
Nominee?
From the Safina Party.
Okay. You become a nominee when the IEBC takes... that's when you become a candidate?
No, that's when you become a candidate.
Okay.
That's correct.
So presidential nominee for the Safina Party, Jimmy Wanjigi, thank you for joining us. I noticed that your jacket is actually also written Situation Room, SR. Good. Staying on brand.
You understood this.
Absolutely.
Knowing where you were going.
Absolutely.
We have...
good to be here.
One of our, legends in broadcasting, Jimmy Gathu, will be joining the SpiceFM fraternity. He has a show starting this weekend. So Jimmy Gathu is Jimmi. Jimmy Wanjigi is Jimi. How many times do you have to correct people on the spelling of your name, Jimmy? How many?
Too many times, actually. Too many times. And that's been actually of late. As a businessman, I didn't have to correct people too much. But as a politician, it seems you want to keep reverting to the old way of writing Jimmy. Mine was Jimi. I was a great fan of Jimi Hendrix during his days. And he wrote it as Jimi. And I adopted it at a very early age.
Okay.
Yes.
Is Jimmy short for James?
Yes, it is.
Okay. If we can make a connection, or maybe now seeing how we're jumping into the realm of politics, James, as one of the disciples of Jesus, is the only disciple is said to have made martyrdom.
Yes.
And this is recorded. And the reasons as to why that happened are, very, very many. But there are things that he did on earth while being a follower of Jesus that then made sure he got to that point. But it was known by everybody. And it was who he associated himself with and the different things then that he was able to do. Recorded as somebody who made it in terms of that history. What are the things you are doing now that would make it possible or necessary for you to get to that point where you would hold the highest position in the country in terms of leadership that you would be remembered for?
I'll be very clear, Nundu. We have been in the political arena for some time now. We have been behind some great leaders and some poor leaders. And we have learned a lot of lessons. We have learned the length and breadth of this nation. We are clear about the challenges the country faces today and the country faces tomorrow. And I can assure you that we have decided, and decided a long time ago, to stick around our necks, to create a new paradigm shift, a systemic change to the 60 years you have known Kenya as. And we are prepared to do whatever it takes to change what we are saying. And I am very clear about this, and I was clear in my nomination speech on Monday, is an Itweka moment, a break from what we have known as normal Kenya to a Kenya that is normal for 99%, not 1%. So I can assure you we have clear plans and a clear conviction to be the James in the Bible. Clearly.
Why?
You know, there comes a time in a man's life that you ask yourself why you are here. You call me a business mogul, business success. Yes, I have been fairly successful in attaining a certain level of business acumen and success. I accept. I am comfortable. But is my purpose and the blessings that this country and God has given me just for myself and my family? I don't believe that's my purpose. I believe that a lot of what I am and have been given in life, by the grace of God, is so that I can do better for mankind. So that I can impart, some capacities, more capacities, make life better for the majority of those that I have found. And we've grown together. So I am very clear that my purpose in life is greater than self. You know, you reach a stage where one has to decide on many things. At my age now, you either decide you want to do philanthropy or you want to make a big difference to your fellow citizens in the world. And I am at that stage where I've said this time, I think is a revolutionary moment. It's no longer business as usual. It is no longer the politics that we have known. It's actually a fundamental change that needs to happen. This is not new. If you recall the second liberation, you had people who, for example, my own party leader in Safina, who left the comfort of their beautiful air-conditioned offices. He was one of the most successful lawyers. And decided, well, it's all well and good to sit here and practice law. But the rest of the world, called Kenya, does not have human rights, does not have democracy. And they chose to stick out their necks. Kenneth Matiba was a successful CEO of breweries, chose to come out and serve the people and stuck out his neck to multipartism at the cost of his life. So we have this in history. We have it in history when we had the struggle for independence. People decided that they are going to stick out their necks no matter what it takes. Jomo Kenyatta being one, Dedan Kimathi, and many others, Chengo Neko. They stuck out their necks to make sure that this country had a different trajectory. So here we are saying after 60 years of independence, it's no longer transactional politics. It's no longer business as usual. It is no longer changing different people and putting them in the same forest. It is now really resetting what we know as Kenya.
Okay. Why do we need to reset it, Jimmy? If the situation as it has been has allowed you to succeed, has allowed you to thrive, like you say, Kenya has given you the blessing, the way it has been. It has allowed you to become who you are today. Why do you need to change it?
That is a very selfish question. I mean, you ask me, why me? It's not about me. If it's been good for me, doesn't mean that it's been good for 99% of Kenyans. It's been fair to me, it's been good to me, yes, but not 99% of Kenyans. We don't live in a bubble. We are not living in an island. Everybody is a child of God. My fellow citizens are children of God just like I am. And they deserve just as many chances and opportunities as some of us have had. There's no doubt about it. You cannot grow in an island. I'm a businessman, for example. Since when are you going to grow in your little island? Where is your market? Why do we have a country with such inequality? Huge inequality. What kind of country is that? How do we have a country today where 53 out of every 100 Kenyans cannot put food on the table? What pride is there in even calling yourself a Kenyan? You see, these are facts.
The pertinent questions that you raised, Jimmy, and you and I think, are contemporaries.
Yes.
And so the history you understand is similar to the one I would understand. The environment you grew up in is probably the same environment I grew up in, a certain type of Kenya at a certain point in time. Now, for the longest time, people knew of your name rather than of who you were. And when you are referred to as a business success, it's because you are known to be you're not your average garden variety business success. No, you were the sort of huge business success that one can only hear of. But clearly you had a road to Damascus experience, because what you're saying, you're now in the public domain. Before, people who knew you, but you were not in the public domain. You were private. Now, I want to understand what it is that made you get to this point where you felt, no, I think I followed this path for the longest time, but it's not the only path I can follow. There's something else I can do. What happened?
CT, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you've asked it. The epiphany was 2013. I had probably one of the most frontline political experiences when I helped the Jubilee government, in fact it was called Uhuru at the time, get to power. And that epiphany is both spiritual and patriotic. We had come through a debacle of an election in 2007, where we saw 1,400, almost 1,500 people lose their lives out of internal strife. Bloodshed we never thought we would see in this country. We were plagued by a situation of how to solve peace between warring communities, two specifically in the Rift Valley, that had probably about 2 decades of strife on land issues, but mainly political. And we had the possibility of a generational change from our fathers to our generation. And we thought this is a time that we can tell the Mzungu in ICC that we can solve this problem locally. We can deal with this injustice that was caused upon people and bring about peace and lasting peace in this nation. And thirdly, change generation of power. You remember we had a big song called Digital versus Analog. We were now getting to the digital generation, and we were doing away with analog. This was the greatest opportunity I can tell you I personally had to feel that I, even though I was in the background, was making a great patriotic contribution to this great nation. My disappointment was that once it was successful in terms of Jubilee getting to power, the agenda remained still about themselves, not about the people. And a lot of what some of us had committed, because we had committed greatly as CT, we stuck out our necks. You know, a lot of this, when I say spiritual, is very deep. You must remember that there was bloodshed. And those lives must be atoned for. There must be a modicum of some repentance. You have to repent. And you must do good, not only to those that have gone, but those that you then govern. I have been proved right, because I exited because of those disappointments. And it's clear when I say 53 out of every Kenyans are now hungry. This was established within the first 4 years of that regime. They inherited 38 Kenyans of every 100 that could not feed themselves, could not find 200 shillings a day. And within 4 years, we were at 53. So more pain was inflicted, not gain. That is not repenting. We have never heard of the kind of corruption that you've heard over the last few years. I remember our song in 2017. So I can assure you that my journey is part of that conviction that we were supposed to get it right. We were supposed to oil and put some more energy in what had come out as a fairly successful regime of Kibaki. Tweak it. Sort out the kinks. But get to a stage now where we infuse energy of a new generation and uplift the lives of more and more Kenyans, not take them backwards, not become more analog than the analog we used to criticize. And because there was a lack of repentance, I said to myself, I'm sorry, I have to walk out. And I have to atone because I had a lot of commitment in the making of that regime. Not only personal, but spiritual. I think you heard even the Deputy President on 2 occasions now confirm that when that agreement was finally sealed, there were only 3 people in that room. And up until today, I have the original agreement. And I can tell you, it is more than a written agreement. Now, I'm a Christian, my brother. I'm a man who believes we are here for a purpose, and not our purpose, God's purpose. You don't go offline and get away with it. You don't. So if you can't do it, some of us say, fine. Then something is very wrong, fundamentally wrong in this country.
What was the content of this agreement that ended up with 2 of the 3 people who were present at its signing and structuring going one way and only 1/3 disagreeing?
Well, you see, they were the ones who were elected. I was not elected. And I can tell you about my side of the agreement. My side of the agreement was that if Kenyans managed to save the 2 in the People's Court, because we had termed the People's Court the greatest court, away from ICC and any other.
And this is the election.
This is the election. Then the 2 will make a very clear agreement that they will save the people of this nation. They will uplift the lives of a majority of people of this nation. That was the only commitment on my part.
And what was the commitment on their part?
That they would atone to that. But they had structural agreements. They had structural in terms of governance, how the government would be shared, what would be the template of governance. We had aspects that I can't talk about here because this was a secret agreement. But the basis was really that you would have a principal shared government that would deliver to the people the covenants of the agreement. You're going to save Kenyans.
Were you to be the business arm of this agreement?
No, not at all.
The one who would execute and make sure
not at all.
The PPPs work, the projects that they need to bring about so that less than 33% of Kenyans are living in poverty. Are you the one who is going to make the wheels move?
I can assure you there is nowhere, apart from being a witness to those agreements, did I pen anything for myself other than what I've told you, the spirit of the agreement. Nowhere. I'm a businessman. If the country is growing, I will grow. I don't need any favor of government. That's how it works. The more people that grow, all businesses grow. If you're proactive, if you're in it, you grow. I don't need any favor of government or contract. All I need is a government that is about growth, and we will thrive. So why would I pen it? I don't need to pen it.
In the last 9 years, according to even figures released by the President and the Presidential Delivery Unit, the economy has grown to 11 trillion.
You know, Eric, I don't want to get into that banter. I really don't. I remember in 2017, they told us that they had put all their issues in some portal and they had an unveiling. And when we questioned one or two things, they even put down the portal. So really, I don't want to get into that banter. You and I are living in this country. If people feel they have grown, maybe that's their perspective. But in the length and breadth of the country, I have even seen of late, I think I find majority are crying about no growth, about receding growth, about desperate Kenyans. I'm not hearing any growth.
You know why that question has to be asked, Jimmy? It's because now you're not a private citizen, Jimmy. You are gunning for the highest seat in the land. And if you're gunning for the highest seat in the land, and were you to get it, these are some of the issues you're going to have to grapple with. And if we have people who are listening in, they would like to know what you think about it, what you'd be able to do about it. Because, after all, that's why we elect presidents, so that they can spearhead these very things that are supposed to change the lives of the citizens for better.
And let's continue the conversation after this quick break. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, and on YouTube and Facebook. The conversation is also going on our social media handles at SpiceFMKE, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube as well. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly and continue the conversation with Jimmy Wanjigi. He is a presidential nominee for the Safina Party. He wants to be the next president of Kenya. And that's what we are asking Wanjigi's bid. Is this a long-term strategy that he's playing, or is he here just to muddy the waters for everybody else? Keep it right here.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play.
Smoking shisha and releasing things on your smoke like a Subaru. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. And you want God to give you a man who has a mission and a vision.
You may create an illusion of, because he's younger, he's interested in me, or he likes me, but he's using me.
Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
The Adults in the Room.
The sun is out in Nairobi at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 15 today at 18 degrees. It's sunny in Nakuru, highs of 29 and lows of 14. Sunny conditions in Nyeri at 17, highs of 29 and lows of 13. At 18, it's mostly cloudy in Eldoret. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 13. Sunny conditions now in Mombasa at 29, a warm high of 34, coming down to lows of 27. Light rain in parts of Malindi at 30, highs of 32 and lows of 28. It's partly sunny in Kisumu at 22, 29 will be the high and lows of 19. And in Kakamega at 23, the sun is up as well. 31 will be the high, lows of 16. Looking at mostly sunny conditions at 21 in Kampala, 29 will be the high and lows of 20. Dar es Salaam, partly sunny at 26. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 25. Johannesburg, sunny at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 15. While Lagos is clear at 28, we'll see highs of 33 and lows of 27. It's sunny in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 35 and lows of 24.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice. Spice
All right,
Spice
what are we
up
looking
your
at?
life.
Heavy traffic then coming in through Mombasa Road, especially at the Maradima section in and outbound. The southern bypass looks pretty good. There's an option to get into the city much quicker. We're looking at Langata Road, which is quite packed, then heading out towards Uhuru Highway into the city and then out through to Westlands. Raila Odinga Way through to Ngong Road, which is not too bad this morning. Some traffic. CBD is where it's jam-packed. If we're looking at the Thika Super Highway, looking a little bit better, but just past the Utali Drift is where we see some heavy traffic, then heading out towards the Pangani Underpass. Inbound traffic on Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic then on Limuru Road connecting with Chiromo this morning. That still remains pretty heavy. Let's talk at a few minutes after 8:30, which is what it is right now. About half an hour, see what it's like if we're out of traffic hour. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
25 minutes to 9. The
94.4
conversation
Spice
continues
FM.
with Jimmy Wanjigi, Safina Party presidential nominee, on why he wants to be president and the reasons behind his bid for the presidency. So, Jimmy, when you announced that you'd like to be the next president, you were a member of ODM.
That's correct.
A life member of ODM.
That's correct.
And the fallout with ODM happened soon after the National Delegates Conference.
That's correct.
And then we saw on the 8th of March, you now moving to Safina Party.
Yes.
Did I get the date right?
That's correct.
8th of March. Why Safina then?
Very much because of the same principles I was in ODM. Its flag bearers have been part and parcel of the struggle of the second liberation. They have stuck out their necks at a time of great adversity to change, positively change the history of Kenya. Paul Moite, Leakey, Richard Leakey, the late Richard Leakey, and many others formed Safina on the principles of that. So the ideals that it stands for are very much in keeping with very similar ideals that ODM had, the pro-democratic ideals. On top of that, as you are hearing in what I'm saying earlier, I am very spiritual, and Safina represents an ark, the ark, Noah's ark, to save the people. It is revolutionary, and that is who I am. I am revolutionary. Now, when I say revolutionary, I think it's important to understand that in every revolution, there are what are called 3 R's. There's rescue, reform, and reposition. Our people in this country need to be rescued. And the symbolism of Safina is very clearly in tone with that. Now, I am a big supporter now, and the presidential nominee, of what Safina has stood for, and we are reviving a party that has been there, and I'm very clear that we are going to do very, very well this coming election.
I'm keen to understand, just like you said, when the founders of Safina, Dr. Richard Leakey, Paul Moite, Muturi Kigano, Farah Maalim, and the others were launching this party, they were talking about a party that is going to be different. It's like the third way in terms of politics in the country. And it had a lot of democratic ideals. The last time Safina had a presidential candidate was in 2013 when Paul Moite was vying. Throughout this year and last year, Safina has not talked of fielding a presidential candidate. Enter Jimmy Wanjigi on the 8th of March. He becomes a party member. 21st of March, barely 2 weeks later, a special delegates conference is called of the Safina party, and the party delegates now say, all right, this new stranger who has just joined our party can carry our party's banner to the National Forum. What did you use to convince them? First of all, to even attend this delegates conference, and also to give you this great honor of their party.
What did I use?
Yes.
Okay.
What did you
do?
How did you entice them?
Well, I believe I didn't entice them. I approached them to join. And I think it's public knowledge what I stand for, and they accepted my life membership on the basis of what I stand for, how I speak, what I'm talking about, revolution that is in the making. So we had a connection of ideals. Paul Moite is somebody I've known for many, many years. I knew him even during the post-democratic period of the Second Liberation. I think it's important you understand, I didn't begin politics now. I have known a lot of these good friends of mine for many, many years. I got back from school, and Ken Matiba was in the forefront. I used to call him Uncle Ken of the Second Liberation. At that period, that's when I met Raila Odinga. That's when I met Paul Moite, James Orengo, Kitobo Imanyara, many others who have been part and parcel of this struggle. So we know each other. We know each other very well. And it's on the basis of that we have a commitment of shared ideals for this nation. So there's nothing to convince. We know each other. So they know the character of the person that they were accepting.
That's true. But,
Yes.
I'm trying to get into understanding your power of persuasion, Jimmy, that in a couple of days you join a political party, a party that had already, seemed to have decided this particular election, we're going to sit it out.
I don't think
without
they had
having
decided that.
Was there another candidate on
No,
Monday?
they may have not had a presidential candidate. Doesn't mean they had not
That's what I
sat
mean.
it out.
They
In
had
fact-
decided to sit out the presidential race this year.
No.
Not yet decided.
No,
but there was
I-
no front runner. There was no
I disagree.
other party member.
Eric, I completely disagree with you.
You will
There
disagree
was
with
no other party member
who
that
had
may
expressed
have
interest
expressed interest. Doesn't
in-
mean that they had decided to sit it out. Had somebody else
Let me change
offered-
my words.
Yes.
I agree with you. Let me change my words. Up to the 8th
Yes.
of March, no other member of Safina Party had expressed interest in vying for the presidency.
Yes.
No member of Safina Party had even come together and formed a caucus and said, let's look for someone who can run on our party ticket.
I don't think.
Enter
How
Jimmy
do
Wanjigi.
you know that?
But Eric,
How do you know that?
Results show us.
No, you don't know
Eric.
that. They may have been looking for a candidate.
Eric,
How do you know
now,
that?
Now you remember.
No, how do you know that?
You remember you can give us the leakage.
No.
The information that is in the public knowledge, that there was no member of Safina Party who had expressed interest and desire to be the presidential candidate for this party.
Eric, can we consider another possibility? You see,
Can I finish my question?
Yes,
Actually,
please, Eric, go ahead.
Then we can
Finish
bring in the possibilities.
yes, yes.
By the time we're having Jimmy Wanjigi joining the party, not publicly, there's nobody else. And then there's a special delegates conference. And Jimmy Wanjigi is the only one who seeks to contest on this party's ticket. And all the members present then say, that's okay. We agree with what Jimmy Wanjigi has brought on board, and we want to support him running on our party ticket. That power of persuasion is what I'm seeking to understand.
Can I then ask, or can I then bring in the perspective that I had in mind?
Yes.
You're talking about somebody who's been known as a businessman and now has entered politics. The thing that businessmen do better than most people is they negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't usually tell you everything that they're doing and how they're negotiating or the tactics they're using. Now that he's a politician, fully fledged, he was a politician before, but a backroom politician. I would like to ask the question if negotiations had been going on all along. Because if you look at how politicians form these coalitions, it's not as though they wake up one morning and they have an epiphany and suddenly they want to join. They've been talking behind the scenes.
CT,
Yes, please.
and Eric, let me be categorical.
Yes.
Even before I had concluded with ODM, in other words, when I was chased by ODM, it's stones. I want to tell you I had very many approaches from different political parties that identified with what I was speaking about, that offered me a chance to run on their party tickets. I had very many. But I was a loyal member of ODM. And when that chapter ended, I decided to look at the length and breadth, and I chose Safina. You said negotiation? I can assure you the negotiation was on ideals. It was on ideals, nothing else.
Can we look at the optics of this? Because I think it is oftentimes what plays out then in the minds of Kenyans. And it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Jimmy Wanjigi today, we could be talking about somebody else tomorrow. And unfortunately, a lot of times, people who look from the bleachers will say that these folks are really not concerned about what happens for Kenyans. We're going into an election, all the things that have been said, all the things that have been promised. And I honestly do believe that in as much as people talk about having a reformist agenda for the country, there needs to be a reformist agenda about the optics and the way this plays out. Because the way in which it presents itself, for those who are on the outside looking in, is that folks are going to use any available vehicle then for personal or political expediency. So how do you have a dismantling of the optics to let the people of Kenya actually know, if it is the truth, that folks who are putting themselves up for candidature are really interested in the development of this country and its people?
No, that's a fantastic question. And I'll be very clear with my answer. We have a situation where the political literacy in this country is not what it should be. People have not understood that the length and breadth of their life is politics. So they are into optics and into being put in boxes. We must understand the periods and the challenges and the questions of each and every election we have. That is political literacy. Then you will understand which candidates or which candidates best suit the challenges of the time. I said, and I'm the one who started this conversation, we have had two liberations in this nation. We had the independence liberation that had its heroes and warriors. And that period was from 1963 to 1992, a 30-year period where clearly the foundation of this country was established. You then had the second liberation, 1992-93, up until present, 30 years, 2022. This was now our human rights. We were against our internal colonizers. And we have climaxed it very well in a new constitution and have had two elections since. Now, it has had its heroes and its warriors. These two periods coincide with very interesting periods in world history. The advent of our independence was the beginning of the Cold War. So you can see how it dovetails with what is happening in the world. The advent of our second liberation was the end of the Cold War, where now people feel, hey, maybe we don't need these, let these people now start, because democracy has a way of, you start looking at each other, you don't look at them. So you find there's a lot of, I don't want to call it neocolonialism, but a lot of influence from outside on our politics. We are now in what I am defined very early in my campaign as the third liberation, which is the economic. It is now empowerment, what is embodied in our 2010 Constitution under Article 43, social and economic power. Now, what is most interesting is what you have just asked. How do we know that it's not sloganeering, it's not this? It's by looking at the candidates. Where have they stood during this period? If you recall just 2017, if you recall 2013, those are two close elections. I said in 2013, we talked about digital versus analog. And we brought in what were being called the digital generation. The founders of that today are supporting analog again. Okay, they've gone back to analog. One of the founders of the digital so-called revolution of 2013 is now supporting analog that he was criticizing not too long ago. Okay? The other party has been part of what we defined in 2017 as the mess to this economy. Because if you remember, when we were campaigning in NASA in 2017, we defined our opponents as a driver and a conductor. And I think we were fairly clear about what we defined them as. So this is what is carrying. That's why it's got nothing to do with the agenda at hand. They have never carried an economic agenda that has succeeded. Jubilee has failed economically. That's why this is such a big question to this election. We are being told there are certain boxes, but nobody is telling you what this economic revolution means to them. So judge people on ideas. We have clarity of ideas. We have clarity of what this revolution is. It's not sloganeering. I am clearly saying that the last 60 years of our existence here has economically disenfranchised majority of Kenyans. It has been rigged. It's rigged as a system. We adopted a system where the colonialist was the boss. The colonialist, we as Mwananchi, served a government rather than a government serving it. Our internal colonizers did the same thing. This is our own people who adopted a system of governance that was about them, not about the people. Now it must change. It must be about the people. And when it's about the people, the game changes. Because then it is service, it is actual empowerment to those people. This is not sloganeering. This is why I'm saying, this is Itweka. This is a break from what we have known. It is an accountable government system that has changed, that will change completely from what we have known in the past. Not just musical chairs. Now, that is now when you should ask me, so what is your revolution? What is your economic template? And let us debate ideas. Because I can assure you, many of these people who are talking today cannot debate ideas. Let us debate those ideas.
What are the main pillars of the economic revolution that you speak of?
I said every revolution has 3 years. We must first rescue the people because they need to be rescued. We have 5.4 million unemployed Kenyans. Just to start with. That is a socio and economic national disaster. Because you can imagine what they are thinking, what they are going through, how they are trying to survive. And what is happening to their very fabric of dignity, if they have any left. Now, we must rescue the people. And rescuing the people means that we must uplift their lives. We have a situation in this country where government is now paying 75% of its income to debt. Debt we do not understand. So you have a huge deficit funding issue. They are borrowing to feed themselves. We must address the debt problem. And that debt must be first and foremost audited. We must put a freeze and audit this debt. Because that expenditure, I'm telling you, we cannot breathe. And when we audit this debt, those that pass the audit test, we must look for long-term debt. We must swap this debt. It's the only way we are going to breathe. That's the first thing.
Okay, first R.
That's the first R. And in R, we must also talk about boosting productivity. Right? There are 3 pillars which we want to move on here. We are going to boost productivity and growth. We are going to deal with inequalities of income. And we are going to deal with governance and service delivery. Those are the 3. And those cut across the 3 R's. So when you talk about rescue, you're also going to boost economic growth and activity. Right? Now, how do you do that? Look at agriculture, for example. Agriculture today is 35% of the economy of this country, GDP. But it only produces 2% of income. Industry is 8%, but produces 17.5% of revenue to the government. These are the disparities, which means that our agriculture is very subsistence. There's no value addition to it. We must now start talking about very serious value addition. I talked about it in the Safina nomination, NDC. And I said, you imagine the tea that we drink called ketepa is not made, it is grown here, it is primary processed here, but to bring it into that tea bag that we so enjoy, it goes out to Dubai and comes back here. It is not even done here. Neither is any of the tea that is produced in this country. This is how sad our value addition is. So we must now start asking ourselves questions as to why there is no value addition in this country for agriculture. We must now start talking about a very different game and be aggressive about it. And in that, We must now look for different markets. I can tell you, there's no reason why Kenya is unable to conquer the 1 billion sub-Saharan Africans with the products that we have. We have quality, we have capacity, we have work ethic. There's no reason why we cannot expand our markets and in fact conquer these markets that we just have around us here. We are still dealing with traditional markets where we are not gaining here in terms of funding, in terms of money, in terms of growth. Now that is conjoined in rescue. You have other elements of rescue like job creation. You have an EPZ not far from here, Eric. And in that EPZ, okay, you have an AGOA treaty that is 450 billion worth of clothing. Of that 450, it is so sad, Kenya is enjoying only 150 billion because most of those, what is used there, comes from China. Comes from China.
As inputs and machinery.
Not only inputs, yes, most of the inputs, including cotton. I'm glad that the government has given a waiver on BT cotton, which is a GMO, and is now being grown. But it's not even been a very aggressive program. Right? Bangladesh, right? Bangladesh. If you see what Bangladesh is doing out of this apparel sector, Bangladesh has 5 to 6 million jobs in this sector alone. Little Bangladesh. And it has no agreements with AGOA. They've been able to get out into the world. We here have the potential because the apparel industry is about a 1.7, 1.8 trillion world industry. We have the potential on this land to raise our job capacity because this 150 is only about 100,000 jobs. We have the capacity to raise this job market into about a 2-3 million job market just out of apparels if we get it right. BT cotton. And it's upward trend. The other is the digital space. The digital arena. If we just made East Africa a digital hub, the potential of East Africa being a digital hub is probably going to be a hub that is the 9th largest in the world. That hub can create opportunities for our very creative young men and women in this part of the world to the extent of about 2 million jobs. Right? Just from their homes, just on their phones. They will be able to create that many jobs if we just focus on creating a digital hub. And a lot of this will roll out in our manifesto. So that's rescue. When you now come to inequalities of income, you cannot tell me we are going to continue living the way we are living with this disparity. That some of us can enjoy a good cup of coffee here, but people do not have food on the table. We must bridge the gap. We must bridge the gap of social mobility. And it starts from a very early stage. Our children, the last 1 year, I can tell you, because brain development is part of this inequality. Brain development is highest, in fact, is formed between the ages of 0 to 5. 2 million kids over the last 1 year were malnourished, so have not had proper brain development in those years. So you can imagine you've disenfranchised that fellow Kenyan from now until they are a full grown adult. Very simple things like community health workers that will go door to door are not being done. Primary health, so we can go on. We're talking about rescue. I'm very serious about rescue.
There are many things. And I think, Jimmy, we'll have you again in the studio so we can, as when you unleash your manifesto particularly, so we can go item per item to look at the how. With the things that you say, this is what we need to do, and the how that needs to be done. We won't need to interrogate that. We thank you very much for joining us today. I want to give you a moment to say goodbye because we have to also say goodbye to the audience on KTN Home. 1 hour is a short time, is it?
Yes, 1 hour is a very short time, Eric. I'm surprised that it's over. Let me be very clear here. This is an Itweka moment. Itweka is a period of saying that this is a time to change what you have known. Kenyans, you have known what has been there. The players that have been there all this time. You know the results of where we are. It's time to change. It's time to do something new. You have all to gain with something new. Don't expect to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Where we are now is a time to break from the past and allow freshness to seep in our country.
And you represent that freshness.
Absolutely and completely.
Jimmy Wanjigi, thank you very much for joining us. Jimmy is the presidential nominee of the Safina Party. We've been having a conversation with him about his bid for the presidency, what convinced him to want to join the race, and what he wants to do if elected by Kenyans to the presidency. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. We've been live on KTN Home. We're saying goodbye to the audience on KTN Home, but the conversations continue on SpiceFM around the country and on SpiceFM KE on YouTube and Facebook. Good morning. It's 9 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The IEBC is today expected to appear before the Senate Legal Committee over its preparation for the August 9th general election. Issues expected to arise during the meeting chaired by Nyamira Senator Okoh include a review of voter registration. It should be noted that with only 4 months left before the election, it was only last week that the IEBC said it had awarded KPMG the tender to audit the voters' register. IEBC Chairman Ufule Chebukati expressed hope that the process will be completed on time, ignoring reports that time had run out, saying registration deadline that the registrar should be audited 6 months before the general election were only applicable in the 2017 elections. The Commission will also be shedding light on its proposed bill that seeks to amend the electoral laws, which is before the National Assembly. Meanwhile, the IEBC has requested the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nordin Haji, to launch investigations of allegations of premature campaigns and use of public resources in campaigns by the two leading political formations. The Commission wrote to Haji following a letter by the Third Way Alliance in which party leader Okoh claimed that Deputy President William Ruto and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have been violating Section 14 of the Elections Offences Act. The Act outlaws use of public resources for the purpose of campaigning during an election. IEBC Chairperson Ufule Chebukati, while responding to Third Way Alliance, acknowledged that it is only Haji's office that can comprehensively handle the matter and be able to act. Now, the National Lands Commission has revisited Ontulili Mount Kenya Squatters versus Angaine family case and involved interested parties targeting to expedite a ruling by July this year. The squatters appealed to the NLC, claiming they were the rightful owners of the land located in Timau, Meru County, since the late President Jomo Kenyatta located them in 1975, but the late Lands Minister Jackson Angaine excised them. Speaking to the media at Nanyuki Town, Professor James Twitoek, the chairperson of the Committee on Historical Land Justices, said they had not concluded on the hearing because they needed more time to determine the main issues in the case. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has rubbished claims that the government intends to raise taxes for border operators. The CS, speaking during a forum of border officials drawn from all the 47 counties, said the drive to create a digital register of all operators is intended to instill order in the sector and get rid of criminals who have infiltrated it. While calling upon the riders to cooperate in the ongoing reforms, Matiang'i defended the move, saying it was long overdue and was centered on making a sector safe and attractive to more investors. Now, Kenya today joins the world in celebrating World TB Day. This annual event aims to raise awareness about the impact of TB on health, community and the economy, in addition to strengthening strategies to address it. This year's theme, Investing to Eradicate TB, Save Lives, aims to push leaders around the world to invest resources to eradicate the disease. According to the Ministry of Health, there are more than 100,000 people in the country with TB. This comes at a time when TB infections have increased worldwide due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as the number of patients seeking treatment in hospitals has decreased since 2020. According to the World Health Organization, TB is one of the leading causes of death in the world. Now, milk prices have gone up by between 5 shillings and 7 shillings in the last 2 weeks, adding more pain to struggling Kenyans. The Kenya Dairy Board has a price hike that has been occasioned by the ongoing drought and the high cost of dairy products. The prices of animal feed have gone up by more than 30% in the last year on account of expensive corn, minerals and soybeans. This has been occasioned by the high demand for commodities on the global market. This has seen the cost of white gold jump from a low of 45 shillings in June last year to the current 65 shillings for a 500 millimeters packet of milk. Now, President Joe Biden is in Europe on a mission to bolster Western unity and ramp up unprecedented sanctions against Russia over its invasion of Ukraine and brutal bid to upset the post-Cold War balance of power. Underlining how serious the crisis ranging in Eastern Europe has become, Biden said he boarded the Marine One helicopter at the White House that he sees a real threat of Russian chemical warfare against Ukraine. With Russian troops increasingly bogged down, the possibility that President Vladimir Putin could order chemical, biological or even tactical nuclear strikes to subdue Ukraine will be one of the dire scenarios discussed at the back-to-back NATO G7 and EU summits in Brussels today. Biden, who is set to give a news conference at NATO headquarters, will fly tomorrow to Poland, which neighbors Ukraine and is now the front line in what some call a new Cold War. This is Newswire. Dennis Sato. Good morning.
94.4 Spice FM.
In and outbound
Nairobi.
traffic on Mombasa Road this morning is what we're looking at, especially at that Imaradaima stretch, then going out into the city. We're also looking at going onto North Airport Road and then onto Outer Ring. A little bit of traffic here and there. Not too bad in traffic hour today. Looking a lot better on the Thika Superhighway, Uhuru Highway, and then out towards the city into Westlands. That still continues. Really heavy on Chiromo. It's been that way for the last few days. Looks like it's still continuing. But again, it has not been too sticky this Thursday. Let's keep an eye on things and see how it opens up. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation.
7 minutes after 9. Kenya's biggest conversation continues on SpiceFM, on YouTube and on Facebook. We have a new guest. Serikali iko kwa studio, but before we introduce the guest, the day's proverb.
For this proverb is from Chad. For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long.
For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long.
Yes. As they say in Kiswahili, haikuwa na pingamizi. So it simply just grew and grew and grew.
I wonder what the
Chadians.
Yeah, the Chadians had in mind when they were coming up with this proverb. So, is it a bad thing or a good thing that the trunk of the elephant grew very long?
Or is it something that you are accustomed to seeing, so you never really question?
Are they saying that the trunk of the elephant grew very long because of lack of criticism? So you want things to grow, just don't criticize? Or are they saying
stifles progress?
Yes.
Or progress is progress when it's
Actually,
when
coming
it's
from Chad, that is a very good angle. Saa yote kelele na haribu maendeleo.
Please.
Yes. I think our guest, Elizabeth Elachi, will agree that. Okay, so let's now introduce the guest and welcome her into the studio. Elizabeth Elachi is the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, and I think it has several other things.
Former.
Former?
Mm-hmm.
Former CAS. Yes. You left so that you can throw yourself here in this particular ring.
Yes.
Former CAS in the Ministry of Public Service and Gender. And now you are vying for political office.
Yes.
Which one?
Back to Dagoretti North.
Mm-hmm.
We did last 2017.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see again this time whether we can
The people of
have women in the
North.
city.
Very good.
Yep.
Welcome to the Situation Room.
Asante.
It's good to have you here. It's good to have this conversation with you this morning. So you are among the people who left public service and public office to throw your heart in the ring. But then you also have good experience in running of public office, and you have good experience in legislation. You have been in Parliament, you have been in the County Assembly of Nairobi, you have been in the National Executive. You understand a lot of what has happened in the last 9 years in terms of devolution, in terms of the progress of the country legislatively, and where we need to go.
Yeah.
Let's start with, where do you think we need to go from this point?
Where we need to go as Kenyans. As Kenyans, where we need to go is first to relook at ourselves, and more importantly, to ask ourselves whether we are able now to break the ceiling through the right direction of getting a good leader who will break this ceiling that we've had for the last 50 years and put Kenya completely to a new, I'll call it to a new Uhuru, to a new map, and to new people who can take over, who have not been so much in government. They've worked with government, but maybe not so much within that executive. And that's my prayer, which I know sometimes is very difficult, to break this ceiling that has been there of our young KANU leaders who grew up through the hands of former President, the late Moi. That's my prayer, that I want to see that Kenya now coming up. And it's going to happen. Slowly by slowly, I can see we're moving to the right direction where we break that ceiling. I think that's my prayer, to see that happen.
Are you saying that if we have such a leader, that Kenyans would readily accept somebody who is actually willing to swim against the current, break norms that have been accepted? Let me be specific. For instance, as Kenyans, we all like to be a little hypocritical. A little here means we like to be a great deal hypocritical, meaning,
absolutely,
on the one hand, we criticize corruption and yet we participate in it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we criticize our leaders for being corrupt, and yet we are the ones who encourage it because we are constantly asking them to give us handouts.
Yes.
Now, the sort of leader that you're talking about is sort of leader who may put a halt to all these things. You think Kenyans are ready to embrace such a leader?
Well, you see, I would let me say what I have, a few lessons that I've learned. A few lessons that I've learned is that we as politicians, we encourage so much all these things that we do. We believe that I will not do development, but I'm able to give people handouts. And so nobody has ever looked at a leader and say, I don't need your money because I have seen you have done 1, 2, 3. It has changed my life. What we have encouraged so much as leaders is to make people to, first of all, lose their dignity by ensuring they are always on the run to look at where is Mheshimiwa to support me on this. I appreciate that one much. Than making this person more empowered to move on and to get others to empower. It's something that...
Why are political leaders afraid to empower the citizenry?
Because when you get empowered, I mean, look at the US. You get empowered, so I move on. It does not matter whether you are in office, I am in office, she's in office. It does not matter. What matters is when you're in office, are you able to just ensure we are able to get service delivery as we always get? The institutions are working for me. I can walk into immigration, walk into the airport, respect that I'm supposed to remove my shoes. I don't need anyone even to remind me. I arrive, remove, walk in. I mean, that is one thing within our context that we have really managed as leaders to ensure people think when Elizabeth Elachi is there, things now, the savior is there. No, I am not. If I am a good leader, is to prepare a system where everyone can feel, even if I don't see Elachi, but I can feel. I can feel the things she's doing. I don't need even to go and look for her at her home, at her. I can come to office because it's a public office. I will need a service delivery. I can walk into the office. But this thing of you've arrived at a place and everyone just comes, and everyone at that time wants a solution. Wants a solution that I'm in hospital. Why? My patient is in hospital. We don't have. Why can't, as government, we ensure that system works so that when that person goes to hospital, there are those who can afford, there are those we know they cannot afford. How can we work in that? That's the challenge we face. Today, when you look at Nairobi especially, I think for the last 10 years, if there's a county that has gone through what I'll say retrogressed completely, even worse than when we used to have the Kanjo guys who used to throw seats, is Nairobi County. Because everyone who walks into Nairobi County looks at Nairobi County as a cash cow. This is an elephant with that long trunk you're talking about. Everyone wants to cut this elephant and have something to go with. But they are not remembering it is your key pillar in Kenya to work. So you come now into the informal sectors. When you look at now life, and you're wondering, so how do we move on? So
but
we
then,
need, we
Beatrice,
need, before let me just finish and just say, well, the person we need now, I think we've done the hardware so much, the infrastructure. I am hoping we are going to get a leader now who goes back to the social fabric, who looks at how do you re-energize people in Kenya to now start rebuilding back what Tomboya used to say, that economic empowerment that removes you from your basics to somewhere or gets you back to the basics. You have food, you have housing, and you have water and education. Those 4 things, that is what we need to go back to.
Is it the leadership that needs to go back there, or does the electorate also need to go back there?
The electorate.
So how does the electorate get... Do you think the electorate sees the current situation as a problem, and do they see the problem the way you see it, the way you've just explained it?
I think they do. They do. After I've gone from 1 week in Nairobi, they do. Because at one point they will tell you, really, Mheshimiwa, mi nataka kazi.
What you're saying is that the citizens really know what they need. They have a clear understanding of it.
They have a very clear understanding, but now they are caught up into, fine, waheshimiwa have this behavior. Hata nikimwambia nataka kazi, kesho sitamuona. So the best, we nipatie basi hiyo yangu, tuachane. But in his desire, he would wish to see somewhere where you will tell him, tutajaribu kutengeneza hii, kila mtu aweze kujiamukia, kujipatia kibarua.
Can I ask you a specific question?
Yes.
You want to vie for the Dagoretti seat?
Yes.
All right. What's the population of voters in Dagoretti?
156,000.
Okay. How many wards are there?
5.
No. I'm going to take it that you have mapped out the needs of each of these wards.
Yes.
All right. Now, this is a question that even presidents of developed nations are asked. In the first 100 days, Madam British Elachi,
yes,
what do you hope to achieve? Not say, because all politicians will say, what do you hope to do that will indicate to the electorate in Dagoretti North that you actually mean what you say?
In the first 100 days.
First 100. You can even make it 50 if you want, but I'm giving you 100.
No, I don't want to lie that I can do it in 50. First 100 days, children in public schools in Dagoretti North must have a feeding program.
Why?
1, today when you walk into Dagoretti North, at around 6-7 p.m. to 9 p.m., you'll always find children who have come from Kawangware, wherever they are, and they're looking for food. People might think, these children are a nuisance, they are beggars, they are what? But when you pick these children and go back home with them, you arrive in their homes, you realize they were just going to sleep hungry. And if you want to keep them in school and try to avert a challenge that is coming in future where the same children will have now learned different arts of how to survive, and they will become again another challenge that we already face within Kawangware. The best we can do, which I'm doing, but I've been doing for Standard 8s, for those who have been doing exams. Try your best, you take to school something they can have at lunchtime, just to. But then, I am telling you, not just Dagoretti North, if we don't do that for Nairobi, and then we become very strict, that why is a child on the street? Why? Where is the parent? What is the biggest challenge? Then you cannot at this time question this parent, because she will tell you, I'm a single mother, sina chakula ya watoto. So that is my prayer. In 2017, when I vied in Dagoretti North, yes, I got 34,400. But my vision was very clear. Elimu kwa wote, tujenge kesho. And I could see, and the good thing as Beatrice Elachi, I walk in Dagoretti, I went to any house, I buy milk, I enter, nipikie hiyo chai, tunakunywa leo. Just, and I know life. I have seen. I grew up in Kangemi. It is life I understand. I understand without giving that education. And that is what I'm telling many of the people. And they know. They know, Mama Dago, the first thing analia sana is elimu. Because I told them, you cannot come from far and live in Kawangware, and then you go back home more worse than the way you left your shamba of 2 acres. And the other thing, it is time even as leaders in Nairobi, many of our people have come from the rural. And you remember the days when we had the rural-urban immigration. People were coming for jobs. Now counties have come. Can we have another system of looking at some families, and you realize, if I pick you and take you back home, you are more better, you'll have more better life, your children will go back to a better school at home, but you'll go and do something small there, than staying in Nairobi. The days of when women would come out and get some casual jobs of washing, kufua nguo, I think because of COVID, the whole system changed. Because many people during COVID time, when they were not going to work, decided, those who now used to employ these mamas, they decided to buy washing machines and changed into technology. And so that job is not there anymore. So you find a woman will wake up from Kibra, from Dagoretti, from Kangemi. Fine, you'll go somewhere, sit the whole day. But that mama will not get that casual job that she's thinking for. Why? That person has already washed the clothes and finished. So within that, we also have to start thinking again through. That was the job that you used to know. Nikiamuka asubuhi, I'll get
a job.
But
I
now,
want to stick on that issue of the school feeding program, Beatrice.
Yes.
One of the largest components, in fact, the largest component of the national budget every year is education.
Yes.
Is there any budgetary allocation for school feeding?
There's none. And the most interesting thing, you find that CDF is there, yes. The CDF of Nairobi and the CDF of rural is very different. You find in the rural, CDF, in fact, you will admire, it has an office, it has many things.
It's doing what it's supposed to do.
It's to do. Now come to Nairobi. I think most of them rent the offices. So then you all your money that you would have spent doing other things has gone to rental.
But then there's ring fencing even of CDF. I'm sticking to the issue of budget because, like you said, we need to get to a point where leaders are not being looked at. Oh, so now it's Beatrice. She's getting some money somewhere. She's mobilizing resources for our children to be fed.
From
it
friends.
Needs to be yes. It needs to be a properly structured program.
Exactly.
What is it that you're then saying that what ought to happen? Because it's not just in Nairobi; it's across the country.
The first thing
is it an allocation of school feeding program in the budget? Or
just within CDF.
Is it rewriting of CDF so that then you can say that CDF is then allowed to have such? Because CDF is development.
Yeah, well,
and for
CDF,
development, there has to be, it is defined on what development is.
Exactly. So CDF, before, there was an emergency kitty, which is still there. It's an emergency kitty. And then we have the national projects that, you see, one of the things that CDF didn't do. So we changed the law, yes, but we didn't remove amounts saying that, oh, you have gone with fewer functions at the national level, so let us reduce CDF. No, we retained the same CDF.
Yep.
After retaining that same CDF, we remained with an emergency kitty within CDF, and then you can do the police houses and the schools.
Yep.
So the first thing we have to do is to come back in Parliament, amend CDF, and just say CDF has to put in a feeding program. That feeding program definitely will help all constituencies to Rukana, where we always now start saying, oh, there's hunger, there's this. You can have that. But for me specifically, in the urban areas, where you have informal sectors and children living in those areas, for sure, we cannot just be relying on UNICEF to bring in support and their grants in schools, while we know through CDF, you can run a program that can retain children. And if government is serious that you're retaining children in school, you want to see 100% success moving to the next level, then you must think of Nairobi very seriously. You have to, it can be affirmative action within this. The same way we have those from the pastoralist areas, far areas, they are given fuel. And whatever they call it. But Nairobians, you can't be given because you are within Nairobi.
Why should it be CDF though? Why not just create a national school feeding program that runs across the country? The same way in the national budget for education, there's a kitty that goes into infrastructure development. There's capitation per child. Then you have the same. There's capitation per child, and then you add a certain amount and say this is for feeding this child.
Let me tell you why CDF. CDF, because you will monitor. At the national level, I'm not disputing it. It can be okay. But let me tell you, by the time you start now fighting with national government, telling them, oh, the money did not arrive, the money did not do this, we are waiting, the principals are even saying, you have taken too long, then you will find the same problem we are talking about. But with CDF, you see, for me, I know I have 22 schools or 15 schools that need a feeding program. I will ensure that within, because I'll be walking there, it's easier to just walk there and monitor and see, is this happening? And if you find children on the streets, I'll still go back and ask myself, why am I still seeing my children on streets? Yet we agreed this is a program. And it's more easier to manage, because if there are issues of, for example, the money has not arrived. Even CDF, it can delay. But you have picked also people within that area, women, young people who can do the tendering of those things. And they're there. And it's easier. It's easier for CDF to run it than giving it completely to the national government. We will always have quarrels with them because of delays. But with CDF, it's easier. The same way you're getting money to paint, I don't know, do what, the same way you will have to make sure. But the other thing, even as we move, you see there are those critical, stable foods that we know, ugali, people will need. When I look at Nairobi, whoever wants to run this Nairobi should not come there and lie. You'll change this. The Nairobi I know. But one thing they have to start thinking is how do you bring back life to be affordable for people to have a living, even as they go for their different informal jobs. It's very, very... That governor has to be very clear in their mind. And they have also an emergency kitty, which has a lot of money, serious money, where you can ensure people are able to get something in the end of the day. If indeed you really want to just be a good leader without looking at many of the little cuts that we like,
cutting off 10%
in Atoka Wapi. By the way, if we just, as Kenyans who have been given that opportunity to do these things, we can just manage the country with the little we have. And you'll find everyone having something.
That's actually a point that we can come back to, because it's about honesty of leadership.
Yes,
People feel let down by the leaders that they've elected.
Absolutely.
And you have just basically alluded to it. Even leaders know that they're letting the people down when they're serving, because they know what they're doing. 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio is Elizabeth Elachi. She is a former MP, former Speaker of the Nairobi County Assembly, former Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Public Works and Public Service and Gender. We're having a conversation about the kind of leadership that is needed going forward in the country. When you take a break, let's remind you about Cipladon.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, aches and pains and some tensions here and there. 2 times faster in terms of how it works. Cipladon is an effervescent paracetamol that you put in water, not a jerry can, CT. 300 ml will do.
You can put it in a glass of water, and then thereafter,
if you feel like dunking a jerry can of water, it's okay.
What is it again of water?
Milliliters is
That's
what
a sip. Yeah, one sip and the 200
it's a cup,
is gone.
It's a cup. How do you sip your water? That's not a sip of water. Or is it please save the answer for another day. Okay. Cipladon, all your good pharmacies, Chandarana supermarkets, and if these symptoms of wanting to gulp more water persist, seek medical advice.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Malindi. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
The group of leaders we are having now, these are just like the polymers. The chemical composition is the same.
Are you corruptible?
Hopefully not.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
People who have done about 300 speeches and they are not saying anything. What makes you think that they will come in with something really dramatic?
Don't miss out on the latest from Kenya's biggest conversation. SMS TSR to 22840.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country. And I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Namba the Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. There are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the Constitution is an illegal act.
He shouldn't be doing it, and he should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up. I totally agree.
Spice and everything nice. All right, okay.
Spice up your life.
Okay, sunny in Nairobi at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 15. It's sunny at 20 in Nakuru, 29 will be the high, lows of 14, 29 will be the high. In a partly sunny Nyeri, it's currently 18 degrees, 19 degrees and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 27 and lows of 13. Some parts of Mombasa with some rain this morning, 31, it'll go to highs of 34. And in Malindi, it's also experiencing some light rain in some parts, highs of 32 and lows of 28. Mostly sunny conditions in Kisumu now after the rain, 24 degrees, highs of 29 and lows of 19. We'll see mostly sunny conditions in Kakamega. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 16. It's sunny in Kampala at 23, 29 will be the high and lows of 20, while it's raining in Dar es Salaam at 28, highs of 32 and lows of 26. 18 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, 23 will be the high and lows of 15, while it's sunny in Lagos at 27, it'll go to highs of 33. 35 will be the high in Kinshasa, where it is sunny at 25. Let's look out into Beijing, where it's hazy still at 9, highs of 13 and lows of 5. It's sunny in Paris at 4, we'll see highs of 21. 19 will be the high over a cloudy London, 5 degrees currently, and it's raining now in New York at 5 degrees. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 11 and lows of 5.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, so the traffic hour that we have experienced in not too tremendous form today has come to an end. Not too much happening. Mombasa Road, that cleared up really quickly today. Huru Highway, those where we see the most action going out into the city, a little bit here and there coming out of Western. And Thika Superhighway, much better now. Just at that Pangani underpass is where we'll see some traffic. But everywhere else seems to be doing all right. Let's keep it that way, shall we? And let's talk through the morning on Spice FM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
24 minutes to 10. So continuing our conversation with Elizabeth Elachi, who is a former CAS in the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, and also has served in the Nairobi County Government as Speaker of the County Assembly.
Because even as you're talking about these things, and say, okay, so what must it look like in terms of leadership for this country moving forward? Because everybody's talked about, we're on the precipice of a revolution, sitting at the edge of a constitutional movement, etc., etc. But I look at issues of management and implementation of some of these things that should not be asked for. It should be a guarantee that if you have somebody who is the custodian of a particular office, of a particular thing, it shouldn't have to be asked of you. Would you please, may I? That there are children starving in a particular constituency and the only source of food that they have is when they go to school. It doesn't sound to me like somebody has to be begged to do something about it. It doesn't sound to me that somebody has to beg and say there's no water in our taps. It doesn't sound to me like something that somebody has to say, please, there's a project, can you implement it? There are papers, can you implement them? This is what folks who are in office are supposed to do. If we look at functioning societies, and then I dare say that this one is not functioning as it should. Functioning societies, nobody has to ask. So how are we going to get from the point where people are elected or people are appointed, whatever it is, where we say now this thing is being implemented and managed in the way in which it should? How will that happen?
It's very simple. We have to, for those who are in government, just change your attitude. I mean, just work. You see the problem, people think when the president is here, you have solved the problem. No. You enter into government and you realize the president would wish this to change. But then he'll find the teams now within the different sectors of government. And each of them will come with their way, how they read the law, how they read the policy, how if I do this, I'll go to jail. And all these things. And some will even decide, no, I'm not touching it. You've not followed the right process. So by the time you're discussing one thing in government, 6 months is over. You've not done anything.
But Beatrice, how do we get to change not just the attitude? I agree with what you say when you say it's the attitude, but how do you stop people from being profiteers? Because everyone, whether they're in government, whether they are in private, I mean, it doesn't matter. Everywhere you turn, every Kenyan seems to think they're an entrepreneur, and essentially they're not really entrepreneurs, they're just thieves. They are looking for an opportunity to make money. It's at the heart of the problems that we keep discussing, because it's not that they don't know what to do. They do know what to do. But there's always that pause of, okay, I will do this. Now, my consideration. Now, it is like our national anthem. Everyone has it. How do you bring that to a halt?
You see, the most interesting thing with all of us Kenyans, we speak so well when we are still outside. Oh, I will do. Oh, the way so-and-so is doing. No, I will do. No. Why I say this? After entering Nairobi County, you look at so many things and you wonder, okay, fine, you want to change Nairobi. You really want to change this Nairobi. Then you have to sacrifice a few things. So you start fighting. People used to think Polycarp was weak. What? No. It's because Polycarp would have wished to see a transformed Nairobi. But he looked at it and he wondered, when I'm moving at this side, cartel number 1 is my friend. This one they are calling cartel, in fact, is my friend. So I'm facing him and I'm like, what are we going to do with water? Yet you are the problem in this water. And he realized, I'm going to have more enemies and I'm not going to change anything. And people will wonder, why did I come here? Before my name is dusted and called another thing, can I leave? So for us now, who would say, look, we are going to brace this thing. And so you face the thing head on. And you're like, people don't care.
Yes.
And we have people who wake up at City Hall, they stand outside there. But in the end of the year, they have 1 billion shillings in their pocket. You're wondering,
what do you mean
okay,
they stand outside?
That's outside. Their work is just to
stand
move,
outside.
Stand, get to know what is happening within City Hall, move with it externally. And so you're wondering, why is City Hall not moving? It is moving, but with people who are outside than more who are inside. They hold City Hall in their hand like this. They will tell you today which chamber is about to. There's a list.
Which is about to expire.
Yeah. So we are about to. This chamber, we need it. Another one will come and tell you, I'm even seeing now they have taken their sons are now running. And they have serious money. They are buying for people. But no Kenyan is questioning. You want a seat of an MCA. Why are you spending all this money? How are you going to refund this money? Nobody's questioning. They are so happy, engaged, and you're looking at it and you're like, surely if you really want to transform Nairobi, we need someone who will come in, but pray to God that after 6 months you leave them, but you'll have turned around that thing. People will be wondering, was it the same Nairobi or something? But move.
Do you believe it can be done?
It can. It can be done. Oh, yes, it can be done.
But you see,
it can be done.
What does it need, Beatrice? Because here you've given the example of Mr. Gather here, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, this is when you sit and have a conversation with someone like that, clear plans, with implementation, etc., etc. But then you are sitting amongst the wolves.
Exactly.
What are you supposed to do? People say you can stand and you can have this. Your will is to actually go in and change, but then you get into a system which essentially changes you. You are not the tea bag. The water now is stronger than the tea bag.
Yes.
So, how is it? Because really, seriously, Beatrice, practically, you say it can be done.
It can.
I think it can be done. I do not know how. You who's been inside, what needs to happen?
It can be
all
done.
Those people need to be removed. The rot needs to be taken out. What needs to happen?
The time when you're the speaker, okay, the time when you're in the politics of this county, as an outsider who just reads the news, you seem to be constantly embattled. Yes. Constantly.
Yes. Because you read a motion and you realize Nairobi is an auction. So you come and you tell them, this, by law, no. And they say, mama, ameanza kutuzuia vitu yetu.
So what needs to happen?
So they wake up in the morning and they tell you, without this, there's no peace. No, it can happen. What I will really beg the judiciary, because they have also given the same people a better hand in doing all this evil they are doing.
Really, how?
Because so someone comes, you want to do something, you run to court, you're given an injunction, and then you stay in court. Then, even if you win the case or not win the case, you come back to Nairobi County, you pay a lawyer 200 million, 400. But if you ask this lawyer, did Nairobi gain? As you were being paid 400 million, I thought you have brought 4 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that you take whatever, whether it's 10% or 2%, but you have brought something back for Nairobi. But you realize all the cases of Nairobi, none of them have been of value of return. In fact, most of them is when you are losing.
You're just paying the lawyers.
You have a full estate, it goes like that. And the lawyer is paid 400 million, and you have lost your whole estate of billions of shillings. And it's okay, and they move on. So,
but then we can't really blame the judicial system, can we? Because it's the same judicial system that has enabled us to understand that the government can be stopped in its tracks.
Well,
same judicial system.
I am not blaming it. I'm just saying it is also good for our learned friends, the judges. Just go also and it's good to also go through public policy. You know, sometimes you can be a judge, but you never, when you are in school, you did. But in practice, you don't remind yourself, public policy, what is good when what is good when I'm doing this? What benefit does it have to the country, to the citizenry, than to an individual person? Just that. I'm not saying they're doing bad. It's a matter of having that public good. Do you feel this thing is going to benefit millions of Kenyans than this person? It's very critical. It's time they also have to walk a journey and see. And I would wish them to walk a journey and look at the lives, because I know within the judiciary system also, they always feel, we cannot engage so much. We are supposed to be this. But it is time for them to go with a mobile clinic somewhere inside Korokocho. Go there. Listen to that citizen. Listen to that Kenyan. He will be you will understand. You'll even look at just the situation and realize there is need of public good to change some of the things. So you can transform Nairobi. One of the things whoever will come in as a governor, and I pray we get a governor who will not be a governor who is coming to do business. That is one. How I pray, I don't know how, because it's Nairobians who will choose. How I pray that you'll get a governor who comes in with a different interest of Nairobi. But I so far I don't know. We are there, because anyone who wants Nairobi has been in Nairobi, so they know. Some of them are looking at, hey, how did this Sonko used to get this money? I think I can go there and get the money. So you're not even in the interest of the people.
It's business.
Yeah, it's business. So if you would wish to run Nairobi, there are 3 things fundamental that governor has to do. 1, please bring back the dignity of water in Nairobi for everyone. For everyone. And this is where I'll tell the judiciary, please don't interfere. Whoever governor comes and first overhauls Nairobi water, please don't interfere. It needs change. It needs, whether you are doing rationing or whatever you will do, but let it be clear that I know twice in a week
I'll open a tap,
but not in the end of the month I have a bill with a tap that has been dry for 3 months. No. So that one is, whoever wants to be this governor must tell us that it is time. People are not going to spend more money buying water. When Buddy came in before I left, I think I left Buddy when we had done nearly 100 boreholes within the slums. But I've realized there are some areas also where, again, they still have those challenges of water within the informal sectors. The second thing he has to do, bring back dignity to Nairobians. How he's going to do it, that economic empowerment is very critical. And he cannot talk about these things we are talking in politics about going down and coming up. It does not work. It won't work. That one is just a story where somebody looked at the challenges of people And you call and you just make an emotional thing that cannot even move anything within Nairobi.
It's called an empowerment narrative.
First, you don't know how Nairobi is. You have not gone to Mathare, Korokocho, Uko Chini to realize in the morning when I wake up, what do I eat? You don't know. You have no idea. But you want to tell me you will do these things. It can't work that way. For Nairobi, it can't. And I want to tell whoever wants to be our governor, because this time around, by the way, even as we are going to be very serious, I will not joke with a governor, with people of Dagoretti North. No. And these people who are looking for these big seats, governor, senator, don't just become a senator and then you forget for 5 years you have never even stepped back to even just do even public participation, even just to do civic education for your people. But you now want to come, because that's how they are riding on it. In fact, in the end of the day, the person who is now carrying the biggest burden is still the member of parliament, because with the MCA, you are always with those people. They are your people. You can't run away from the challenges and the goodness they are facing. But then you find a governor will come after I don't know how long, because you have this administration. Fine, if the system works better for the administration office and all that, the better. That's the governor who has to come. He has to come rethinking how to transform young people in Nairobi, who right now, when you look at them, see, all of them are, their business is border. How do we enhance this border to be a better business for a person who is with a family? And if we do it better, they can
Madam
have
Elachi,
it better.
These things you say, they resonate. I'm quiet because they sound really good.
They're always good. But in terms of management, Jesus,
they sound really good. You know, we had someone here before you want to be a presidential candidate. And I also kept quiet listening because the things you were saying sounded very good. But at the back of my mind, I was thinking, but people who aspire for these positions are politicians.
Yeah.
And these politicians know how to present their cases well. Now, let me ask the question. Do you have a blueprint? Do you have written down manifestos and plans so that when you get that seat, after a year, we can come back to you and say, Madam Elachi, in your manifesto,
you did this.
Yeah, you said for water, you said you're going to do this. For this, you said you're going to do this. For this, you're going to do this. It's clear. You wrote it.
Yes.
Where are we?
I have it. I don't want to lie about what I have learned to be very, it's my weakness. I always tell them, they know. This I can do. This I have to push the national government to do for us. This is the responsibility of the governor. It is my responsibility to scream, do everything for this governor to understand this is what we want. So what I have done for myself, I have looked what is very open that you can indeed deliver to your people. That's why I started education. I know it's something I have been doing, not for me, by me. And the one thing I've been honest to them is that don't look at me and think Elachi is bringing money. No, this is money from other Kenyans. And therefore, if your child is being taken to school, for sure I'll want to see a report form. I don't. I'm not a leader who just gives at because there's bursary. No. That bursary has to translate to something better, because it's another Kenyan who we have removed their money to bring and support you. So you can't just come. Because the other thing we've decided, you find we say, you have bursary of 5,000. So this 5,000, where is it taking this child? That's what I've been asking them. So I've told them, for me, I'm clear. There's bursary of a child who you see, this is a child who has to go from Form 1 to Form 4 and join university. And from there, move on. There's a bursary of a child who 2-3 times, I will tell you as a parent, look at this child. Is it best for him or her to have skills or to continue? And in the end, this is where we are headed. So I've told the parents, you have to also look at the strength of your child. And now, because we are in the new system of CBC, why can't we agree? There is one who can just go to a polytechnic, become a good plumber, So don't force him so much in something that you're seeing every day he comes home, you're wondering. But yet you're using bursary that would have gone to another child who would have come and transform and pick another child to take to school. So I think we have those conversations. They find it very difficult, because they feel, we muheshi, we tuite tu, peana tu basari venye watu. I told them, no. We have to, let's learn also to appreciate. Imetoka kwa wengine, kukuja kutusaidia. But then the other thing that I will tell you is that the issue of economic empowerment, the issue of these young people, that one I have to rethink. In my constituency, I must rethink. Women have to do something. They can decide to do the market thing, but somebody has to have something that he's doing. I have even told them very openly, some we can sit down and discuss. Now as Elizabeth Elachi, not as MP or whatever. Maybe at home you have a land. Maybe it's just something, a small boost, where I can give and you go back home and restart your life. As long as you're going back home, where I follow track
Madam
with
Elachi,
you and the chief at home that this mama is coming, msaidieni akae nyumba.
Madam Elachi, this accountability that you're speaking of and which you seem to favor, do you think with all these coalitions that we are currently having, these fashionable coalitions where every small briefcase party can now form a coalition, do you think it'll help with accountability, or will it just enhance this terrible merry-go-round that we have, where the plundering, instead of being reduced, is actually now enhanced?
Well, it is my prayer. The word prayer, it's my prayer that the former Prime Minister, who is also a presidential candidate, he had his own, for many years, there's a song he has sung. In every campaign that he comes in, his wish has always been social fabric to improve in Kenya. It is my prayer that the Right Honourable will rally, that will be his main agenda for Kenya. Because all these other agendas have been done. He should not go back to what Jubilee, he can only build up on what Uhuru has done, finalize so that they don't become elephant projects. But for him, his main agenda for this country must be what Tomboya said. Ondoa ujinga, ondoa ugonjwa, ondoa umaskini. Those three must be his tool as we move. And for me, that is why I stand with him. I look at him. I've never voted for Right Honourable. No. This will be his vote. But then, it is my prayer that is his agenda.
Do you think he can do it?
He can. One, what I'm telling Kenyans is that at where the Right Honourable is now, he has nothing to lose from you, from me, from anyone. By the way, he has only one thing: build his name, ensure the legacy he has wanted for all the years he has stood to be president is achieved, which were those three things. If he leaves Kenya with that, whoever president comes will find a country that is more with dignity than we are in now.
Going beyond,
and I keep on saying, I keep on saying, it's my prayer that he will stand with those three things. That health we are talking about, that Baba care, will be indeed.
It will be realized. Going beyond the presidential candidate, you've talked about, looking at the people who want to be governor of Nairobi, MCAs in Nairobi, and you're saying, oh my goodness, I'm just hoping that voters pick the right leader.
Yes.
What should they look
the
out
MCAs.
for? What should a voter look out for?
You see, I want to tell the voters of Nairobi, if you want to eat money and continue having this money that is flowing, fine. But when it comes to the day of the vote, please don't look at the money. Now vote for the person you want to go and work. Vote for that person you've been seeing and you think, this is just a simple person, I don't understand what he's saying. Please vote for that person. If you're going to vote for a person who is spending money on you, please remember he's coming back for 5 years to also look for money. He will meet you again because that is what all you want. So I want to plead to them, don't do the things. They are there. Everyone is coming with their different agendas. There are those who can't even speak. So if you can't speak now, how are you going to speak when you're doing the bills, when you're looking at public participation, when you're looking at the budget, when you're fighting for the budget of your ward level? If you cannot communicate that, if you cannot even tell the people of that ward that for the last 10 years or 5 years, you have received this from the governor, or maybe there's nothing you have ever received from the governor. The only thing you've been receiving is you coming with bursaries only. But in terms of this has been done, where is our market? Why is our sewer like this? How can we use young people to be the ones collecting that garbage? Why are we saying we have many young people not doing anything? Yet you can just take them on cashew, let them clean their area, let them clean that ward for you.
So
you don't even need to go far.
So be deliberate in the person
in
that
the person you choose.
to be
Please,
your MC.
Kenyans, please, Nairobians, be deliberate. Also,
Asante.
bring in a person who will have a sitting with their governor. Not when they want something, they start threatening. We are impeaching you. We are doing this. We are doing this.
Beatrice, thank you very much for joining us. Beatrice Elachi is a former Speaker of the County Assembly of Nairobi, former CAS in the Ministry of Public Service and Gender, and is also now aspiring to be the next MP for Dagoretti North. Asante for joining us. As we conclude, CT, today's proverb.
Indeed. For lack of criticism, the trunk of the elephant grew very long.
For lack of criticism. Thank you for joining us. Have a lovely
The government
day today.
became more stubborn. That's what it means.
It's 10 o'clock. Good day.
Thank you so much.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The IEBC is expected to appear before the